Good evening. Good evening, everyone. City of Lamarque City Council regular agenda of August 12th, 2024. Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Lamarque, Texas will conduct a regular meeting on August 12th, 2024, beginning at 6 p.m. Council chambers at 1109 B Bayou Road, Lamarque, Texas, as well as via video conference hosted through Zoom. In accordance with section 551.127B of the Texas Local Government Code, the presiding officer and the quorum of the Lamarque City Council intend to be and will physically be present at 1109 B Bayou Road, Lamarque, Texas. This location will be open to the public, and the meeting will be broadcast at this location on Channel 16 and via YouTube. The council will meet for the purpose of considering the following agenda. The meeting has been called to order. Kiera, would you give us a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Councilmember District A.
Present.
Councilmember District B.
Present.
Councilmember District C.
Present.
Councilmember District D.
Present.
And Mayor.
Present. Thank you, Kiera. Mayor Pro Tem, we would like you, if you are able, to lead us in our invocation. Gus, would you lead us in our pledge today? Let's stand if you're able.
We bow our heads. The glorious and blessed God, we place our community and our work and ourselves into your hands. Anoint us with creativity and energy, and so that even the smallest task that we do here today will bring you honor. God, when we're challenged, guide us. When we're weary, energize us. And we hope that you bring blessings upon our administration, give them wisdom. Our employees, always give them commitment and compassion. And to our residents and families in our great city of Lamarque, always give them courage and strength and good health. We ask all of these names in your great name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Gus.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Ross.
Gus Ross.
Board.
Excuse me. Oh, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, today we acknowledge and we honor one of our city's most effective public servants, one of our city's most productive families. It's the Crowder family. The Crowder family has been synonymous with the city of Lamarque for decades. This family has produced two mayors, Jimmy Crowder, Ron Crowder. I believe Ron Crowder went on to become a county commissioner, I believe. This family has also been a part of so much wonderful history in our great city. Recently, former Mayor Jimmy Crowder passed away on this past Friday at the Queen of Peace. Was his homegoing celebration. We thank the Mayor Pro Tem for standing in my stead. Had a dental appointment that I could not miss, but certainly we wanted to stand up for this Crowder family. And as always, when we have many of our residents who have given service to this community, we honor them with the highest honor this council possibly can, which is a proclamation. So I believe Mr. Bim Crowder, great friend of the city, is here today. Bim, are you here to receive? I know your family has already received the proclamation, but we would love for you to come and stand with us here at the front as we read into the record the proclamation that this council has awarded, certainly your family and thank you, former Mayor Crowder, for his service to our community. Office of the Mayor for the City of Lamarque proclamation. Whereas James Jim Clifford Crowder Sr. began this life on June 11th, 1930 in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And whereas at a young age, he and his family moved to Galveston, Texas, where he began his career in the funeral service at Malloy and Son Funeral Home as an ambulance driver, funeral director, and assistant manager. And whereas he furthered his career receiving his funeral director and embalmer's license from Landic Mortuary College in Houston, Texas. And whereas in 1959, he opened his own business, James Crowder Funeral Home in Lamarque, Texas, and since expanded to servicing other areas across Galveston County, including Dickinson and Webster. And whereas his passion for serving his community is ever present throughout his life, as shown through his tenure as the Lamarque president of the Chamber of Commerce, a member of the Lamarque City Council, and 2 terms as the mayor of the city of Lamarque. And whereas on several occasions he received honors for his commitment to his community, including the Distinguished Service Award recipient from the Lamarque Junior Chamber of Commerce and an Outstanding Citizenship Award from the Knights of Columbus. And whereas his love for family, traveling, and being outdoors, especially hunting and fishing, was known to all, and his love for life and community will forever be celebrated. And now be it resolved, the city of Lamarque mourns with the family and friends of Jim Crowder Sr. And now therefore we, the mayor and city council, by virtue of the authority vested by the city of Lamarque, Texas, do hereby proclaim August 9th, 2024 as Jim Crowder Sr. Memorial Day. The city of Lamarque and do hereby extend our deepest sympathy to those who knew and loved him. Testimony whereof witness my hand, the seal of the city of Lamarque, this 7th day of August. Keith Bell, Mayor. Ben, we certainly have been the recipients and the beneficiaries of your family's service throughout the years. I cannot remember a time, not that I'm that old, but I cannot remember a time that your family has not been in service to the city, where you all have not been open to serving, willing in your service and dedicated to this community. Our hearts go out to your family. We just lost Ronnie, it seems like a few short days ago. And so now to have the patriarch of this family, to lose a patriarch is something that certainly all of us who have ever lost a patriarch in our family can identify with. So we're here for you, we're here with you, and certainly we would like to take this time to give you the floor so that you can express whatever on behalf of this great, proud family in this great city.
First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Compion for coming over to the church. He did it with excellence as far as his reading as a proclamation for all the people that were there. Did an outstanding job, and the rest of the council, Kimberly and all y'all, I appreciate this. My dad went last Sunday, a week. He passed away. The Saturday before, he mowed 5 acres of grass with his oxen between his legs.
Wow.
And he on Tuesday, the week before, his defibrillator went off twice and shocked him. They took him to the hospital. He stayed a day, and he told him there's time to go home. And so he went home, and he was sitting in his chair. He was watching the Astros that Sunday. Me and him were texting back and forth. I was at the game, and I got home to the house, and about 30 minutes later, my son called me and said he'd gone.
Wow.
And he passed away sitting in his low boy, what do you call it? No, lazy boy chair, sitting there watching the news. And he had a good run. He was a great person, and he was a better dad. And he was always there for all of us. My dad, you never asked him for anything that he didn't do backflips to do for you. He was a good guy. Thank y'all.
Thank you, sir.
A video for him, and there's a song in there from Luke Combs, if you have a chance to listen to it. It's about the heart of a lion and being 10 foot tall and bulletproof. And that was my daddy.
That was your dad.
Yeah, thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Crowder. And again, thank your family on behalf of this great city. You all have put in decades of service to our community, and we will never forget you. Thank you, Bim. We move now to item 4.2, presentation, Office of the Emergency Management. I believe that Mr. Hunter will be making this presentation. Welcome, Mr. Hunter.
Hello again. Um, as y'all know, I'm Kyle Hunter, the Emergency Management Coordinator for the City of Marque. I wanted to give an update, brief update. Wanted to make sure that council was aware that we're going to be bringing back at the next council meeting a tree cutting resolution, asking all public utility companies to trim their trees and their easements, especially power companies and power lines. I did want to let y'all be aware that we signed a 90-day contract with GrantWorks, and I will bring that forward as well at the next council meeting. During this 90 days, I will be putting together an RFP for public assistance services. We moved forward temporarily with GrantWorks since we already have established relationships with them, their knowledge of the city and city staff. Basically, public assistance in my world right now is dealing with FEMA and TDM. As y'all know, FEMA has many deadlines, and they're very hard deadlines. If you don't file and if you don't fill out this form on certain dates, then the city starts to become ineligible for reimbursement. Due to the fact that you already know, especially from earlier today, city staff is relatively new to this. Finance staff is relatively new. That's why we are contracting with an agency that has knowledge, and this is in their wheelhouse. They have a group of people that is FEMA trained, TDM trained, that deal with this all the time. So there is a cost factor to it, a management cost. That management cost is reimbursable through FEMA. So to some extent, like I said, I brought this to the mayor and let him know about it and asked if we can do this because everybody was new. Everybody's workload was heavy. We're in the middle of budget, and we don't have time to follow every email and every FEMA notice that's put out to make sure we meet these deadlines. So this is getting a company in today to help with that for the next 90 days while we do an RFP, which will be brought to y'all to be reviewed. And then we'll publish it for, once again, for public assistance to help us with this. Debris update. It's always a fun topic. We've cut 53,000 cubic yards to date. I believe we have finished our first pass today, at the end of the day today. They'll be starting the second pass, what we like to call the final pass, tomorrow. I want to remind everybody, and we'll be putting out messaging about it as well, to please separate your debris. I've driven around the city. I've seen some piles that I have been received as complaints, and it's mixed debris. It's some fencing and then trees on top of it and then cardboard box on top. That's not going to get picked up. That needs to be separated. So I want to remind everybody why I have this platform, to please separate the debris and put it to the side of the road. They will be going down and checking and picking up one last time. The company did bring in a truck last week, a piece of machinery that helped them move debris that they could not get to, meaning debris that was covered by power lines or underneath trees that the big trucks could not get down the road. For instance, half of Oklahoma is a good example. And we got several complaints on that, and we were waiting for this machine to get here. which under the supervision of the debris monitoring company was able to pick up, move the debris where the bigger trucks can go ahead and pick it up and load it in their truck. We do have a truck out picking up C&D, which is your construction debris, your fencing and stuff. I do want to let everybody know that Main Street, which is 519, Highway 3 and 1765 are state highways. We are coordinating with them to get them to come and pick up their roads. We are not technically allowed to. If we did, we would not be reimbursed for it. So we are coordinating with them to get them to pick up their debris, the vegetation debris and stuff that's on the side of their road. Once I get more information on it, I will release that information. We'll post about it. We'll let everybody know what we hear. I do know that earlier this morning, I believe, I was told that there was a truck going down and picking up debris off of 519. So I believe the state had started on 519 already. I just don't know to what extent yet. Other than that, I'll entertain any questions.
Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Kyle, can you go over the debris pickup? There are parts of the city that still haven't had that picked up, but you informed me that there was a reason for that.
Well, parts of the city were, so as long as it's all of the city streets, so anything that's not 519, Highway 3 or FM 1765, should have been, and is being checked to make sure that they have been picked up at least once.
Well, I think what I'm referring to is not far from here. Because of the power lines, they impeded
Right. So
the trucks that the company's using.
correct. So as I mentioned earlier, they brought in a piece of equipment that is able to get down those streets, pick up those piles of debris, move them closer to where the trucks can get, and then have that loaded in, and all that is being monitored. So they brought that truck in last week, and they've been using it to finish those hard to hit areas, those areas where there's a power line that's too low for their truck to get down, or where, once again, tree debris has grown over, like I use the example of oak lawn.
Second thing, during this process, and this is in preparation, just call it mitigation. So we've gotten calls, members of council, from areas that either we realized or the homeowners realized that a ditch had not been properly mowed, or there was growth in there. And in my case, I reported them to the city manager and for follow-up to get those things mowed, because it's typically beyond the strength of the homeowner,
Right.
to do those open ditches that are rather deep.
So the mowing of the ditches would be your code enforcement department, who would oversee writing that up and then submitting it somehow to get mowed.
And then the final thing, and we might post this on our own website, is to remind our residents who experience damage in a property that they own, their homesteaded home, that there is, under the state law, you can apply for a temporary disaster related exemption. And by doing so, if your home was impacted, in my case, I can still continue to live there, but I had backflow, which normally happens, and I'm not able to use the one bathroom because it's like get the plumber out there and install a backflow preventer, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And but that is a method, or I should say, it's an option out there to receive at least a temporary freeze and reduction in my appraisal of my property. And that's certainly available to any other resident that experienced any sort of damage, and they go range from 15% up to 100%, depending upon the damage of your home. But we might put that link in our website.
I'll get
to
with
let
you and we'll
people
get that information posted.
on that side. That's all I have, Mayor. Thanks.
Thank you. Any more questions? No, sir.
I do have a member of Crowder Golf here because I know that,
Like here in the building?
here in this room, I know
wow.
the city manager had gotten a request to have, to have somebody here from the debris pickup company. So I have them here as well if there's any questions directed for them that maybe I can't answer.
Council, do
If
we have
council has
any
any.
questions for the representative of Crowder Golf?
Well, I guess for Kyle, in the event that, you know, we have something, emergency event like this, it's taken over a month to get everything picked up, which was an issue for a lot of citizens. It took too long. The second thing, now we're starting round two. There's no gap for, you know, if the homeowners didn't have areas to put stuff, debris and stuff, they don't have an opportunity now because we're starting round two. So in the event, maybe speed things up in the beginning, give us a small gap, let homeowners be able to move the material. And then I've also seen piles of, you know, paint cans and stuff like that on top of debris piles. Has anybody talked with homeowners to say, hey, this is going to get picked up, or is it just going to?
Where is your representative from
yeah.
Crowder?
Howard, you want to come up here?
Howard, it's Howard, Howard, correct? Welcome, Howard. If you would, when you arrive at the microphone, if you would give us your full name and share with us your organization. We know it's Crowder Golf, but we need to have it for our minutes.
Howard Turner, project manager for Crowder Golf.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I believe Councilmember Lowry was asking a question probably to you through Kyle. So you've been listening. Would you like to respond to?
Paint would be considered hazardous household waste. Initially, when we came in to discuss the project, we said hazardous household waste would not be picked up. In this storm, that would not typically be damaged by or hurt by the storm. White goods or your refrigerators and things, and electronic waste. If you had a flood event, then you see a lot more of that type of material come out, and there are programs for that. Generally speaking, the programs that you have in place for the citizens on a day-to-day basis, when the washing machine goes out or whatever, you just use those. That's already established. Everybody's familiar with it, and it's easy to do, easy for everybody to do.
So I think on that note, just to answer you a little bit more, is we'll get with waste management and those services that she spoke about today during budget meetings. We'll make sure to put out some information to educate the public on what services they have available through our current trash contract, bulk pickup, things like that, and how to properly use them. Because I think some of that covers
Yeah, we
the
found
paint
that out
and the
today.
hazardous waste stuff.
Why did it take so long? I just
Well,
wanna know.
let me address that. We've been here 21 days working, actually physically working. The process is a logistics challenge more than anything else. Primary to that is our debris management site. We have an extremely small debris management site, which means cycling the trucks into that site and out is the whole key to the process. I could have 1,000 trucks, but if they're on the street in line, I'm not going to go any faster than they can process through the site. Now, unfortunately, that was the only site that we could get permitted. Second issue with the site was there was standing water on it when we got there. So we built an access road so we could start. When we started, then we had a week of rain and 15 inches of water. We brought in mulch from another site to lay a pad so that we could continue to work. And we worked every day except Friday, the day that the city streets were so flooded. We worked every day except that day. So we've pushed through pretty hard. A lot of those 7 days that it rained that we had and other projects, I've been doing this for 20 years, we would not have worked most of those days. One, safety is the main factor. That's a tough deal climbing up and down a ladder 30, 40, 50 times a day when it's slick and wet. Lightning is another issue. Every time there's a lightning, 30-minute delay. Those are FEMA rules, you know, I can't go around them. So we pushed pretty hard that first week to get this off and get it started. And so it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, because we really can't go any faster, as you alluded to, than your citizens put material out. Now, depending on the size of the storm, you can have it as tall, 10 feet tall, and it lines the whole street. In a storm of this size, where the individual piles are not, generally speaking, that large, except in a smaller area of the city, then there's generally plenty of room for everybody to put out. So you try not to rush by. If you come by before the first weekend, what's everybody doing? They're worried about their electricity, their food, and what they are. They're not worried about a tree down and putting brush out. So you have a little delay in the beginning. A lot of times we delay 2 weeks before we even start, to give everybody a chance to recover from no electricity and those sort of things, no water problems and all that. So then they can concentrate on the debris. And so the trucks are much more efficient. So when they go down the street, there's debris there for them to pick up and, and cycle through. So a 30-day window for a cleanup is quick in the industry. A lot of these projects, depending on the size, they'll take 3, 4, or 5 months. Now, this obviously is not that size of a project, but we've hit 56,000 cubic yards of material. It's a lot of material. And working through that site that we have, like they're all, at the park and everything, that's like, couldn't do much more, or we'd just be backlogged. We'd be jamming up against ourselves.
So a couple of questions. One of the main concerns of our community is what appears to be a haphazard approach to picking up debris. In other words, it does not appear to have any method, any rhyme or reason to the way that your company is going about picking up debris. It seems like you all are deciding to pick up debris on this street in the northeastern section of the city, and then what appears to be arbitrarily focusing on another street in the westernmost portion of our city. I believe that there is some sort of method to the way that you all are going about your business, but our residents are unaware of that method, and it makes them frustrated. I'd like for you to address that. And secondly, there's also been talk about what the equipment that you all are using, and this may not have anything to do with you or the equipment, but it appears as though residents on the other side of our levee are concerned about what that equipment is doing to the streets over in that part of town. So would you address, and Kyle, maybe that second question is for you, but definitely the first question, Mr. Howard, is for you in the way that you all are choosing to address the streets.
All right, well, let me take I will take the second one.
Well, thank you.
On the other side of the levee is where?
That's over the street that takes you to the park.
Oh.
It's the street that takes you to the park where the dump site.
All right, floodgate. Oh, all right, I know where it is. Well, all the trucks are legal weight. So if the street is, built to standards, then it should withstand anything that our trucks have on there. I'm not aware of any real damage to the streets that have occurred from the trucks, but I've not had that report given to me or anything.
Okay.
So, and on the method to our madness. The first thing I do is when I come in and look is try to get a feel for where the damage is, where it's heaviest, where it's lightest. And then I look to see what is the easiest access from all areas of the city to the DMS where we're going to handle the material. Because I don't want to go through a neighborhood if I can use a major street, such as Bayou or Westward or Durone, So I look at that. And we initially will start at the DMS, try to clean those streets up so trucks can pass without interference from debris overhanging the streets and those sort of things. So we kind of clean our way up. And we're also we try to be aware that we want to give some coverage to the entire city when we start. So we try to have a, truck here, truck here, truck here, truck here, truck here. And it takes us probably a week for us to really figure out where is the debris, what's the easy way to move around, and how to come and go. And so we may be here for a while, but there's obviously a lot of debris up there. So we may move up there so somebody doesn't feel slighted because we started here and we went up there. So we try to do some of that and move around, and, eventually we're going to get it. Somebody's going to be first. Somebody's going to be last, and nobody wants to be last, including myself. I understand that. So we try to provide some coverage in every way. And there's no, I don't have a reason why I would concentrate on one particular area, unless it was crowding the street, people can't get through. Generally, that comes from y'all to me, say, hey, there's a street here that we need to get. Can we get it? There's a pile on the corner. So we will cherry pick those, but those are just instances. And we try to move in a little bit of a pattern going up and down, and try to work those streets to get us back, to where we want. So I'm not aware of doing any one particular area sooner than the other. We started pretty much in every, kind of all the way across from Republic landfill,
Yeah.
all the way down to the bottom right.
I think more than that, it's doing one street and then leaving the street next to it undone. That's what we hear a lot, as well as there may be 10 piles on a street, and for whatever reason, the reports we're getting is that you all picked up 4 of those 10 piles, and for some reason left the other 6. So
Yeah.
it's things like that we're hearing.
I can't answer directly to it, but if I saw it, but obviously we have low wires that we have to deal with. We have overhanging trees. Sometimes, depending on the orientation of the pile to a tree that's not impeding it, you can only pick that pile up going this way. You can't pick it up going that way. That's just the nature of the trucks that we have.
Okay.
You can't get every single pile on the right-hand side going down, which is where we prefer to work. So sometimes you have to come around and come back. So that's part of it. Sometimes you can't make the turn at the end of the street to go left. You can only go right. So we do this side, we may come back down this side, and we may keep looping like that. And everybody goes, well, you took only half the street each time. But then we try to double back and, and go the opposite direction and do it. And we're going to pick every pile up. So no real advantage to us to skip anything. It's just a matter of the driver is trying to maximize his effort and his time and his speed by what he sees from his experience. And yes, sometimes it looks like we're hopscotching around. And honestly, occasionally that probably may happen, but we try not to do that. We try to let them, they're experienced at it. If you've ever seen them work and pick debris up off the ground, you can tell that they have some experience. So to some degree, we let them work the area we give them. Okay, this is your area, you work it. And they may want to work all one side and then come back and work the other side. So we're not going to leave anything. We don't plan on leaving anything.
Sure. Thank you. Mr. Ross, I'm sorry.
I just want to make sure that, and I'm going to try to phrase this as politely as possible, that there's procedures in place to not have an accidental dumping of debris again, especially in District D, because as soon as it happened, notified. It was a Friday night. I was going to wait till Monday, but luckily city manager and the police chief took care of it and it all got picked up. But I just want to make sure that, especially in front of a daycare, that doesn't happen again.
That's been handled, trust me. So that's my first experience with that happening. But everybody involved in that has been duly informed that that'll never happen again.
Thank you very much.
And I apologize to the city because that was supposed to be done on Friday, picked back up on Fridays. when word got to me, we were Saturday doing it, but, no. Shouldn't have happened, and so that's been corrected.
Thank you very much. Much
Yep.
appreciated.
Thank you. Any more questions for Mr. Howard from Crowder Gulf or Kyle representing the emergency operations for our city? Very good.
All right.
Last question. Debris Tech still Debris Tech, are they still following Crowder
Yes.
Gulf? Okay. Thank you, sir. Item 4. Item 5, citizens' participation limited to 3 minutes per person. Comments from the public will be heard at this time. Any person with city-related business who has signed up may speak to council, limited to 3 minutes. Wishing to speak, you may give the mayor or presiding officer your full legal name, your address, and the item you wish to speak about. Compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, the city may not deliberate on comments. Personal attacks will not be allowed. Personnel matters should be addressed to the city manager during normal business hours. If you're visiting with us via telephone, you may press *6 to mute or unmute yourself. If you're attending via Zoom, the Zoom platform, smartphone, tablet, or computer, there should be a microphone icon in the lower portion of your screen. If you are here with us in person, you may approach the podium at the center of the room, and you will be heard. Let us remember that we address council as a whole, not individually, and that there will be no personal attacks allowed. Thank you for your consideration. The first person we have to speak with us tonight would be Mr. Richard Holcomb. Welcome, Mr. Holcomb. Name and address for the record, sir.
Yes, sir. Richard Holcomb, 2708 Magnolia Drive, Marque, Texas. I'm here to talk about when I have it's actually a Section 8 house in our neighborhood. The grass was this tall, so I go to call code enforcement. The number rings and rings and rings. The third time that I called back, a lady, she says her name was Rosa. She picks up the phone, and I could tell she wasn't picking up the phone to answer it because she didn't say nothing. She was picking up the phone to make a call out. Well, I tell her about the tall grass. And I tell her we got 3-foot grass in this house, 2 houses down from my house. And she tells me, well, it has to be over 12 inches before we can do anything about it. Last time I checked, 3 foot was not more than 12 inches. And, but no matter what number you pick, number 7 don't even answer no more. And I think that's the finance department. But when you call City Hall, now that lady don't even answer her number. But you can push any number you want to, and nobody ever answers your call. Nobody ever returns a message. And it gets frustrating when you're trying to do something, get that off your list, and you can't get to talk to nobody. And I'm not trying to personal attack nobody, but I just like to make a comment. I watched y'all's budget meeting on YouTube, and there was a council member that gave the city marshal a hard time about too many tickets being wrote in their district. And I would think if you was a city council member, I don't care if it's my brother, my father, my son-in-law, if he deserves a ticket, he needs a ticket. This city needs cleaning up. And if they write 3 ticket books in my district, I would be saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. Y'all have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you, Mr. Holcomb.
Thank you.
Rashad Loftus. Welcome, Mr. Loftus. Name and address.
Good afternoon. Rashard Loftus, 309 Johnson Street. So I was gonna talk about the debris management company because I've been dealing with the same thing at my job, so I know how that works. But this gentleman here kind of answered a lot of questions that the citizens have. I had questions too, more so comments. And some of the comments I had were addressed by you, Mayor, as far as the hopscotching. I think you heard that from me already. Yeah, so the hopscotching is happening all over this town. And you mentioned it, where they coming down the street, picking up a pile and then leaving. And so what I was told by someone, and I've seen it. They're not filling these trucks up, and that's where the problem's starting to occur. They have filling these trucks up to get a load ticket, and then they run back, dump it, and then they come back. So I'm under the impression if I can take a half a load and get a ticket for it, and it's a full load, then hey, I'll keep doing that all day and never fill this truck up. And this ain't nothing that I've heard. I've seen it. I know the truck ain't full, and there they go gone to get a ticket and be gone. So I'm gonna leave that alone because the gentleman did answer a lot of questions that y'all presented that I was already thinking anyway. So it's like, okay, I'll save part of my 3 minutes. I really needed 10, but okay. The dumpsters, y'all were talking about the dumpsters this morning. And Mayor, I tell you, I had heartburn. Ain't that your word?
Heartburn.
A lot of
yes, sir.
heartburn because I've mentioned those dumpsters before.
You did.
I've sent photos, dumpsters all over the city. Ain't none of them enclosed. Why is that? Why are we not following our own rules?
Yeah.
I, along with a whole bunch of these citizens around here, are fed up with us not following our own rules. And it needs to stop. Not only on dumpsters, a whole bunch of stuff. We're letting people get by. We don't want to put a burden on our citizens. That's a bunch of, what, if you ask me. I've heard that too many times from code enforcement, that we don't want to put burden on citizens. Well, what does that do? That puts a burden on the city. It puts a burden on other citizens when we keep letting people get away with it. I'm fed up with it too, just on that. So I was listening also about when Ms. Hobby and Rick was here. The equipment sharing, how does that work? How does departments share equipment? I brought that up to a couple public works employees a while back, asking, this the only blower you got? Little cheap handheld blower? How does the whole city don't have the right equipment? Don't make sense to me. You sharing equipment? Okay. So y'all need to put that in your budget to make sure that they get what they need. So then there's no excuse.
Finish your statement, Mr. Law.
So yeah, make sure y'all put it in the budget to get them what they need and get more manpower, because the 3 people doing all those parks, in my opinion, it ain't gonna work. And when it don't work, I'll be back to tell you that it didn't work.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Loftus. Mr. Edward Gibbs. Welcome, Mr. Edward. Name and address for the record, please.
You have to excuse me, I'm an old vet.
Thank you for your service, sir.
I'm Edward Gibbs and I live on 1607 West Lamar or West Houston Drive. I moved down here 7 years ago and picked this nice city to live in. And it has been nothing but a speed demon on 1600 block of West Houston Drive. I mean, they drive like idiots there every day, all day long. And about 3 houses down, a little kid got hit because they were speeding down there about a year ago. And I'm just wondering, I'm just letting y'all know that area is bad. And the other thing is westward, that is the roughest road in the world. I mean, they're going out there and throwing a little bit of asphalt in these little holes, but it really needs to have a surface on it of some kind. That's all I got to say, and I do appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. James Osteen. Welcome, Mr. Osteen. Name and address.
James Osteen, 2012 Giordano.
Welcome, James.
Yeah, I want to bring to y'all's attention because we don't want to get in a situation where we forget about this, but y'all had 3 ordinances y'all read on July the 15th, the first reading. And tonight y'all going to have a second reading and a public hearing on 2 of them. I believe y'all forgot about the ordinance 0010, which is your water conservation plan. It's not in the agenda, but it was published in the classified ads for a public hearing tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Osteen.
And what I want to remind now, you got to approve the ordinances within 120 days of the first reading.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
you need to put it on your calendar.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mr. Conan King. Welcome, Mr. King. Ms. Nance, would you, at the end of the meeting, would you address what former Councilmember Osteen brought? Thank you.
My name is Conan King. I'm the president of the Marque Police Association.
Welcome.
All right. What I wanted to speak about a little bit tonight was, I noticed we had on the agenda that, the proposed tax possibly being proposed by city council. I wanted to remind city council that, you know, our proposed tax, greatly reflects the services that the city can provide, you know, and just ask that y'all take that into consideration when you're, proposing that tonight. If you give me 1 second, let me slip over to the agenda real quick.
I think you were on 6-1 is where you were looking.
Thank you. I had placed my agenda down and could not remember which one it was. So I wanted to talk to you about the Public Safety Building Committee
Yes, sir.
that y'all are proposing. I wanted to remind City Council and also ask that when we create that Public Safety Committee, the association would like to take part in that. You know, they would like to have an ability to have an idea of what direction we're wanting to go as far as a city, and as far as what kind of facility we're going to be looking at.
Absolutely.
All right, and that is all I've got.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Chantel Woodland. Welcome, Ms. Chantel. Name and address for the record, please.
Chantel Woodland, and I stay on Jackson Street, Lamarck, Texas, 77568. So some of my concerns have been answered about the trash pickup and the disorder in which they were being picked up. And then I just wanted to kind of like remind the council about some of the concerns that people brought up following the hurricane, and hoping that these improvements are being implemented as we continue on with hurricane season, which some of them were being about notifying citizens about like cooling centers and things, but in a way that didn't involve using their cell phone services, such as like the YouTube live videos that was happening. So if we were still going to be able to do those bullet point statements,
Yes, ma'am.
and text message services, and if we are going to be what's the word, practicing those before the next storm arrives. And then I also did want to voice my concern that I have been reaching out to the city and not receiving callbacks after leaving a voicemail. All right, thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am. Thank you. Ms. Chantel, in this part of our meeting, we aren't allowed to respond back, but perhaps at the end of the meeting, council members may make certain requests. So we didn't answer this time, but that's because we're not allowed to. Usually we answer in our closing comments, things that we are asking the manager and the staff to do. Thank you. Kyle, are there any persons online wishing to speak? Very good. Thank you for your comments. We move now to item 6, public hearing. Conduct public hearing to hear public input on. Did you, Gus, the Mayor Pro Tem is asking about a response to former council member Osteen's question. And so are we going to wait until after at the closing comments, since it's citizens' request?
Yeah, we're not really supposed to respond, but if a citizen wants, that item is not on the agenda tonight. If a citizen is here and wants to speak to it, they have that opportunity in public comment to do so.
If there's anything for us to share back, Ms. Nance will share that at the end of our meeting.
Correct.
Very good. Very good. Conduct public hearing to hear public input on 6-1, ordinance number letter O-2024-0012, establishing a public safety committee, providing for an effective date, and making other provisions. This is the second and final reading. Also, 6-2, ordinance number letter O 2024-0013, establishing the Code of Ordinance Review Committee, providing for the committee's duties, term, membership, quorum, voting, meeting, and rules of procedure. This is a second and final reading. And so we close our regular scheduled meeting at,
7:01.
and we open our public hearing for item 6.1 and 6.2 at 7:01 as well. Are there any persons online or in our presence tonight wishing to speak to item 6.1? Again, any persons online or in our presence tonight wishing to speak to item 6.1? Thank you. Are there any persons online or in our presence tonight wishing to speak to item 6.2? Again, are there any persons online or in our presence tonight wishing to speak to item 6.2? Thank you. Item 7, old business. 7.1, ordinance number.
Should we talk about the?
Yes, I'm sorry, I said online or in our presence tonight. I'm sorry, Mr. Osteen, which item would
My
you?
fault.
No, it's okay.
What I want to talk about is at the first reading, the council would discuss about having 5 alternates. I believe it's you, Mayor.
On 6.1, are we talking about 6.1? Mr. Osteen?
6.1.
Yes, sir, proceed.
Yeah, on 6.1, and the council kind of come to a consensus that you'd have 5 alternates,
Yes, sir.
and that if one of the regular members didn't make it, only that alternate could sit in his place.
Yes, sir.
And my understanding was it was gonna be in this ordinance, so there's no, he said that, you know, so I'd like to see y'all make an amendment and put that in there.
Sure,
The
sure.
5 alternates and what y'all agreed on, which was that otherwise, if I'm an alternate and somebody else doesn't show up, I can't fill in for that person. It has to be the alternate that y'all appointed for that district.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
So you might want to put that in here. Same for 6.2. I don't know, but 6.1 is what I was really concerned with.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Osteen. Item 7, old business. 7.1, ordinance number letter O 2024-0012, establishing a public safety building committee, providing for an effective date and making other provisions. Gus, the recommended amendment
Wait.
by,
We
I'm
didn't
sorry.
close public hearing, sorry.
thank you for that. Let's close the public hearing at,
7:03.
let's move now to old business. Let me reread that, since we were in public hearing. Thank you for that, Ms. Nance. 7.1, ordinance number letter O 2024-0012, establishing a public safety building committee, providing for an effective date and making other provisions. Gus, the friendly, potential amendment that former Councilmember Osteen, has, asked us to add, would that be a substantial change?
I don't believe so. The powers remain unchanged. The membership is unchanged. You're just adding some alternates. It's not like it's going from a set of 5 to 10. It's 5 still.
Very good.
So that's
So-
fine. So as long as it's still 5 regular members, I don't see an issue with that.
Do you need me to ask for an amendment, or should I, when I entertain a motion, should I add that in the,
It's up to council's will.
okay.
Either works.
Council, I will entertain a motion to approve item 7.1 with the caveat that it be expressly communicated in this ordinance that we will have 5 active members based on district and 5 alternates based on district or assigned by district. And that those alternates are only allowed to become active when their district representative is unavailable. I will entertain that motion. Does that suffice, Gus, Kiara?
Does for me, Mayor.
Okay. I will entertain that motion.
Mayor, I'll move that the language, section 2, be amended as follows, that each council member and the mayor shall appoint 1 member and 1 alternate.
Yes, sir.
to the Public Safety Building Committee. And to add one sentence. And I think the one sentence, Gus, would be appropriate under section 3 to indicate that in the absence of the appointed member of the committee, that the alternate may serve as the voting member.
Shall serve.
Shall serve as the voting member.
That is the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion, council, on this item? Ms. Nance, is tonight the night that we appoint, or shall we wait until next meeting?
Yes, sir, you can appoint. You guys can either do that now, or in new business, there is an appointments item
Okay.
designated as well.
What if we are not ready? Can we do it next meeting?
I can have it on next meeting as well, just in case.
Just giving council options.
Yes.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Council, if we do have appointments to this committee, let's do them in our appointment line item on the agenda, as to give us a chance to kind of get past this part of it. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Item 7.2, ordinance number letter O-2024-0013, establishing the Code of Ordinance Review Committee, providing for the committee's duties, term, membership, quorum, voting, meeting, and rules of procedure. I will entertain a motion that will also include, and Mayor Pro Tem, if you have the language ready, certainly we will entertain it. Caveat to provide for the same type of procedure as the last. You have a motion, Mayor Pro Tem?
Oh, yes, I can do that. I would ask that I'd move that we amend section 2 to each council member and the mayor shall appoint one member and one alternate member to the Public Safety Building Committee. And then under section 3, Gus, the same language, the same sentence as to the authority of the alternate in the absence.
Yes.
Did you get that, Ms. Nance? Same language. Is there a second?
Second.
Council, as with the last item, if we have appointments to this committee, let's make them in our appointment section of the agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The administration, I believe, is asking to pull item 7.3, and so we'll move past item 7.3 into item 7.4, social good grant agreement, authorizing a grant agreement with local policy lab for voter participation initiatives. I believe this has been a topic of discussion already, and so we yield the floor to Mr. Garcia.
Mayor, just for clarification, we wanted to pull item 8.3, not 7.3.
8.3, thank you, 8.3. He's right. Okay, I was told 7.3. That's okay. We can work through it. We'll pull item 8.3. And hold on just a minute, Mr. Pritchett. Let council deal with item 7.3, proposed resolution committing local funds for the Westward, Stormwater Improvement Project, GLO contract number 20-065-105-C287. Mr. Saylor.
Mayor, while Rick gets situated, this is the known as the Mary Melody Stormwater Project, also known as the Westward, also sometimes called the West Lawn Stormwater Project. Nonetheless, it is the project that was funded through GLO funds for roughly 1.477 million to provide some relief to stormwater for that area. A little history on the project. We knew that it was going to be over budget. We knew that we did not have enough. We went several gestures. We even went to DD2 to try to see if we could reduce those funds and maybe have them support this project in some capacity. To no avail, we brought that back to you, at which time you told us proceed accordingly. We even allocated funds. All right. We even allocated funds to come out of the CO bonds to alleviate this extra expense. We have now neared completion of the project. One of the things that has been allowable for us is there was $55,000 of unused admin funds
that we can now put towards that construction cost of that overage, which would alleviate and release us from that additional set of funding to have to make. So essentially, we thought it was going to cost us about $500,000 in overages, and we are slightly below that. The funding agency is requiring us to have a resolution in place in order to proceed. We already have your authorization, but we didn't do a separate resolution for that, and that's what we're bringing to you tonight. Thank you.
So we have tonight, are we or are we not committing funds that, are we committing any additional funds? Or is this simply a resolution?
It is simply a resolution, and it's actually technically to authorize less funds than what you originally put aside for this project. It's overage.
I want to speak on this, but they told me it was cool, but I need to tell y'all something about it.
Okay, hold on just a minute, James. Rick, did you have something to add to this presentation?
No, I believe city manager covered it.
He covered
The
it?
dollar amount is in the resolution, 420,436.87.
Okay. Let's do this. Gus, help me stay in line. Let's because of that, because I was also told it was being pulled. Let's give Mr. Osteen an additional minute. Yeah. Let's give Mr. Osteen an additional minute to extend his citizens' request for hearing, provided that he didn't know that this would be on the agenda.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
just
Mr. Osteen.
trying to help y'all out. If you look at the resolution, on item 1, it says the city commits up to $420,436.87 from its general fund. Now, when you look at your city council agenda form, it says it's coming out of the utility fund. So y'all have to make a decision. Is this a mistake on the resolution? Because right here on your city council agenda form, see right here, Joe? It says the 2 places, it says it comes out of the general fund. The second page, physical impact is funded by utility fund capital expenses. And then the resolution says it's coming out of the general fund. So
The resolution says general fund, the information
Yeah.
provided to council says utility
yeah,
fund.
staff says it's coming out of the utility fund.
Let's get that answer.
Thank you.
Rick, do you have an answer to that question?
Checking, sir.
Okay.
I also see where it says that it's coming out of 2020 certificate of obligation bonds to complete the project. And the bid award for the Westmont project says.
So there was a change in staff's thinking because the utility fund had revenue to be able to cover this cost. So that last bullet point on that agenda item says the original funding option cited the 2020 CO bond. However, city staff recommends using available funds within a utility fund to cover the city's share of this cost.
You see, again, there's been a theme with me the entire day. Where does the frustration come from? All we see is the frustration, but we don't see these things, right? We as a staff don't have the authority to make those changes. We don't. One of the things that we continue to have trouble with is here lately is that there are a lot of changes made to the directions that council has given. And we cannot continue to operate in that way. It confuses the council and it confuses our community. We were all preparing to work in one direction. And now we are at the point where we're passing or potentially passing a resolution. And there are 3 different potential funding sources for this one resolution.
And the narrative behind it is, well, you know, we were going to take it out of this particular fiscal resource funding mechanism, but we thought we could probably take it out of this one. Well, what did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, what did we think about the line item it should be taken from? And how did we direct? And so it becomes way too confusing. And this has been a theme throughout the recent months. And I won't stand on this because, you know, it's not on the agenda, but this has been a theme in our budget workshop. We have to stick to what council has directed us to do, nothing more, nothing less. Gus, I'm at a loss. Yeah, go ahead, Joe. And then Mr. Ross, you were saying that there was another line item, correct?
Yes.
All right, go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
First, I need clarity, Mr. This is
Absolutely.
clarity. You were referring to the confusion of,
No, to me,
yes, sir, Mr. Osteen.
Yeah. the resolution says. it's
Microphone,
coming out-
James.
The resolution says it's coming out of the general fund, if you look at your resolution.
Yes,
But if you look at your council agenda, it's a page in front of it. It says it's coming out of a 2020 CO,
correct.
and it's also saying it's coming out of the utility fund. It's a last item on that agenda thing. Can you show it to him, Mayor?
Mhm. I see it.
But
That page. I see the CO fund here on cost detail.
so my concern is which one is it, so y'all don't approve the general fund, it should come out of the utility fund. I'm just trying to help y'all out.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really have a dog in this hunt.
And Mayor, I'm going to suggest that, first of all, I agree with your comments, the city manager and Rick. This is what we agreed to. So I'm moving for us to approve the use of the fund coming out of the CO. That's what we were wanting to use. It's the oldest there.
Right.
Right? And so let's stick to what we'd agreed to. And that's the motion I would make, or the correction, or the clarification.
Yeah.
That's where the funding comes. If it's less, be it less. But then you're going to bring us a budget amendment update to say we didn't use this amount of money, we've using X amount, and then we have X amount remaining in the 2020 CO fund balance. Does that make sense?
It does.
That's
It does.
how I'd like to approach it.
Yeah, that I would entertain that as a motion. Mr. Ross, were you good?
Yeah,
I would entertain that as a motion. Thank you for that direction, Mayor Pro Tem. Is there,
I have a point of order.
okay, yes, ma'am.
So was it a typo or what was it? Was it a typo? Why was it listed three different?
The
ways?
resolution was actually done by the funding agency and was probably missed.
Okay, so it
The
was a
grant,
typo.
we knew it wasn't coming out of general fund.
So it's not which fund is it coming out of?
So originally, the council had approved to do it out of the 2020 CO bond.
Okay,
When we come back to council with a recommendation, it's only a recommendation. Nothing's been moved here. There was available funding in the utility fund. And I think there was some thought on staff's point to pay for this out of the utility fund reserves rather than dipping into the 2020 bond money, which we can spend on other projects.
Point of
So
order,
It's
please. This was authorized.
Well, hold on,
through-
Go
Finish
ahead.
your
I lost
statement.
my train of thought. I mean,
Okay,
I'm just saying it was a recommendation that we could pay for this out of utility funds rather than using the 2020 CO bond.
thank you. Will you finish? I'm sorry. Will you finish? Thank you. Mr. Garcia.
At the last passing of the CO balances, it was very clear direction that was given by council to take this out of the bond funds. That is what you passed. That is what I was under the impression that this was under. I missed it. It's on me. I would like to ask you, so I can clear this up properly with the funding agency, to please table this item so I can make sure that it's right. I don't want you to pass something tonight And for whatever chance, the language not be acceptable to the funding agency, we are dealing with the GLO. Or we can pass it as the recommendation was. I just don't want to have to bring it back if so. We're trying to close this project out, and I will deal with the discrepancy on what happened with staff separately.
Question. Question. Council gave you direction to fund this item out of our CO 2020. And I believe we gave you that direction last year at the end of the budget process last year. Is that correct? I believe that's correct.
Yes, Mayor, actually, but when we updated the sheet, is when we ratified it. You gave us a direction to follow up with that as such when we knew there was going to be an overage.
Did council give direction to the administration to use the 2020 CO bonds to meet this obligation?
Yes,
or no?
sir. Absolutely.
At that point, and we're talking about last fall. At that point, what my expectation was for our administration to do their due diligence to make sure that we can use the CO bond monies to meet this obligation. And if we were unable to, that should have been brought back immediately to the council.
Yes, sir.
Council, I know that you voted to do this. You directed me to do this, but we can't do this because of this. That should have been within the first 30 to 45 days after our direction. And what you're saying tonight is you want to speak with the GLO to make sure that we can use the CO monies.
I apologize for not properly explaining that. We do have written authorization to do so. They are now requiring a resolution. I want to make sure that the language that we put in the resolution is right. They've already authorized for this. That's one. Two, the second thing is that was not true then, is that we have a cost savings for our administration in roughly 55,000, if I'm looking at this correctly very quickly. We want to use that as possible to reduce the burden on us. So it's not the original 5, whatever we thought it was going to be. This is following exactly the council action that was given by the authorization of the 2020 CO bonds.
Mayor Pro Tem.
The resolution, I think we go forth, Mayor. The resolution already says very clearly, whereas the city of Lamarque identifies that additional funding requirements qualify for use of 2020 certificates of obligation bonds to complete the project. That's the resolution. That's the one that I believe we should go forth with.
I will entertain that motion.
And I move that we accept.
Is that second? Is that second?
Second.
Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Item.
The resolution number is R-2024-0044.
0044.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Nance. 7-4, it looks like. Social Good Grant Agreement, authorizing a grant agreement with Local Policy Lab for voter participation initiatives. Mr. Pritchett, I saw you approaching, man. You look like you were chomping at the bit.
Schedule, I was wanting to make sure I was prepared. Good evening. Good evening.
Very good. Good evening. You may proceed.
Yes, sir. So this was on an agenda, the timelines of the storm and babies being born is a bit skewed for me. I apologize. A meeting or two back, legal and I had to go basically back with them and go over a few finer details. I believe a problem with it was the contract that was written on here previously was not written with some updated Texas state laws, whereas this social good, social good work within lots of states. We met them through our connection and really through of our projects with All America City this past year. They were one of the sponsors. This is something that we had discussed prior to going to Denver for All America. But what this agreement is, it is their connection with the Houston Endowment as well at here in the state of Texas.
But what they look at are specifically cities that are growing, that specific cities that are have low voter turnout, as well as that are looking at kind of making a name for themselves, kind of inputting their own thumbprint, if you will, into history of where they're looking at, through connection and as well as through, Gus and his office with Mill Shirley for here with the city of Lamarck. We have discussed with them $50,000 grant for them to give to the city of Lamarck. And really what this is vote for whoever you want to. Vote if you want to be left, right, up, down, if you want a tinfoil hat, if you want to wear a hat that belongs to somebody else, a grandmother, all the above. It doesn't matter. What they want is, what this money is derived for, is to create avenues to educate people, our citizens, on the importance of voting. Again, vote for whatever candidate you want, vote for whatever policy that drives you. But why we were selected is a couple of different things. Lamarck is on the rise as far as how we keep democracy alive, as well as we have a low voter turnout. I would specifically, and I know that they're probably on the call, Peter's on, and he can fill in some of the gaps if needed. But I think a major point of why we were chosen is because as a city of 20,000, we are a very diverse city. Our council is diverse. Our boards and commissions are diverse. And we took that diversity and put it in our application for All America. And we've taken and kind of shown, again, it doesn't matter what your politics are, but this is specifically to raise awareness on how do you register to vote? What does it mean to be registered to vote? What if I'm a veteran and I'm registered somewhere else? All of these are additional things that can be part of this. But again, why we were selected is because we're a small town that is on the rise, that, democracy is still important to all aspects of us. If there's any gaps, I'll try to answer those as appropriately as possible. If there's questions, either me or Peter can chime in for any of those. But that's in a gist of what this is.
The biggest question is,
Yes, sir.
is there any grant match?
No, sir.
Very good.
Yes, sir.
Council, we'll open this up. Do we have any questions for
Yes, sir.
Mayor Pro Tem? Go ahead.
I would like to hear from is it Policy Lab? Yes, sir. Local Policy Lab.
I'd like to hear
Yes, sir.
them.
Okay.
If you said Peter.
Yes, sir.
To please describe this.
Absolutely.
Peter?
Yes, can you all hear me, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Yes, would you give your full name and the organization you're representing before you speak, please?
Yes, sir. It's Peter Zahn, and I'm Vice President of Local Policy Lab. We're a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization. And we were basically assigned by the Houston Endowment, which has an interest in helping out cities, in this case, on the periphery of Houston, to increase their voter turnout. And Mr. Pritchett is totally right on. It's completely nonpartisan. They don't care. We don't care who actually turns out. It's really just giving the opportunity for cities to get assistance to carry this out for the November 2024 election. And I just might add that yes, I was in Denver with the team, and congratulations, by the way, on being selected as an All-America City. I think the endowment and many of us are really impressed with Lamarck's not only the presentation but the commitment to really engage in reaching out to their residents and using innovative ways to do it. And the idea really here is to help financially. So basically, Local Policy Lab has the ability to essentially re-grant, take funds that Houston Endowment has provided to us and re-grant them to the city of Lamarck. $50,000 is the maximum that we can provide under this grant, and we're happy to do it. So
Yeah, I'd be happy to take any other questions. I would just add one more thing, which is that in addition to financial assistance, we do have a representative in the Houston area. I don't think she was able to come tonight to the meeting. Amatula Contractor is her name. And she also runs a civic engagement nonprofit and is available for consulting. And then we have people on our staff who can help with things like looking at literature that the city might want to distribute, or social media postings or texts. And we can actually help you to prepare a plan. But I would say that we are impressed that Lamarque is very far along in terms of what y'all have done already.
Peter, does this relationship with Policy Lab also permit the city to engage in some manner with the Houston Endowment, with whom we've never had a relationship?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I would say, sir, that I'm sure they would welcome the contact, but it's not provided for that there is let's say, a formal reporting relationship in the agreement, which the city attorney very closely looked at and made comments on and removed certain things. That there is some very simple reporting under it and planning, and that would come to the local policy lab. I will say that the Houston Endowment would like to see anything that the city would plan to distribute to its residents, so I think mainly so that they feel that they're in compliance with all legal requirements. But certainly they're very friendly and welcoming people, and yeah, I mean, we'd be glad to arrange a meeting or a relationship and let you guys take it from there.
Thank you.
And Peter, just so you know, Ms. Contractor did outline all of that in our discussion, just FYI.
Okay, great.
So the goal is to engage the community to vote.
Yes, sir.
If you take our community, for instance, we may lean one way. You may go to League City, they lean another way. Who's the oversight? Who's going to see that we're not pushing things to be leaning one way versus leaning the other way?
For sure. And I think
I don't know how we're going to do that without oversight.
And I think to Mr. Zahn's point, he was stating that like local policy lab as well as Houston Endowment, if they're going to cut a check for this, they want to make sure that anything that we distribute is bipartisan. Meaning that if they're going to cut a check to cover us printing anything or distributing anything digitally, they're not going to, they want to approve it before it goes out so that it is, again, remains informational only.
So who's going to monitor that from the city?
Oh, from the city,
Who gets to
myself.
approve
Yes,
it?
sir, myself.
So you
So
approve everything
I'm
that
the
goes-
project manager,
So-
be the project manager for this project.
So we don't know what you put out, you just.
No, absolutely. So if this is accepted, then we would go through and then with communication with the Houston Endowment Fund to then understand, okay, what do we exactly want to do? If the council were to accept this tonight, I would then go back to put on our next regular council meeting, a executed plan for what we're going to put out, because since November 5th is vastly approaching, we have to put and execute this prior to that date. And so the whole point is if we're going to put out mailers, then we would have to get those printed and mailed out ahead of time. If we're going to do a digital campaign, we would want to create that, make sure that council approves it, make sure that it can ultimately go out to Houston Endowment Fund because they're the ones that are going to be footing the bill for it, so that it goes out to stay bipartisan. Because it's not, and if you look at the agreement, especially if you, I believe it was 0.6 under section F. But it cannot be towards a specific political campaign. It cannot be used in opposition of a candidate. This isn't mudslinging, but one of the major portions and kind of where this stems from is, I guess the best way to say it is even what
Texas Secretary of State Jamie Nelson put out today. Like the whole state of Texas, especially on election years, try to make this general put all states, but state of Texas is where we're at, a general push of make your voice be heard. Again, this is allowing a small city like Lamarque to have non-budgeted, non-taxpayer dollars to use for the push of go out and vote.
Let me see, JB and Peter, let's see if we can help, Mr. Lowry. Is there an opportunity for, before any of these, pieces of information are disseminated, is there an opportunity for council to approve those pieces of information? In other words, before it's mailed and text and however it's going to be put out, those pieces of information come before council, we look at it, and then we vote to direct Mr. Garcia to direct his staff to disseminate this information. Could that be possible, Peter?
Well, I think it is possible. However, Mayor, I would discourage it because the timelines, as Mr. Pritchett said, are getting short. We were on a council agenda, I think, a couple of months ago, and it wasn't able to go through. But there is time in terms of working to design some of these pieces, whether it's a mailer or some other literature, to get it printed. We can help in terms of getting that done or referring you to print shops, that kind of thing, if you don't have relationships already. But the thing that we would urge is that you allow enough time, and my concern would be that if you've got to wait till a scheduled council meeting, we don't have too many of them left until the November 5th election. So perhaps if you could empower the city manager or deputy city manager, whoever, to have that and maybe report to you all individually, and then maybe keep it on the agenda as you go forward up until November 5th to kind of review what's already been done. That's just a thought, it's a suggestion. It's not impossible, but I think that the key is to really give the residents an opportunity to see the materials and hear the messaging, which, of course, is nonpartisan, but to encourage them to turn out, essentially.
It goes, hear the messaging again, if it's, hear the messaging, who gets to determine the message? I mean, that's got to go before council, that's got to go before somebody. If you give it to just one person, it doesn't, they may have a different political view than me. And so to me, that wouldn't work. There's just too much gray area.
The political, I guess, what part do you mean? Just for my clarification to understand.
Well, anything, if we don't get to see what's put on it, I mean, it needs to be looked at by everybody. We can't just have, I don't know how he votes. I may agree with it, may not. He might want to put something on this letterhead. Are we sending it to every address? Or are we just sending it to, who's going to oversee who all gets it? Mailers, texts. I mean, there's so many things.
So we wouldn't do text just because and I guess this is what is helpful if I can address any of that. So we wouldn't do text. One, most likely for timeline, that takes a while to set up, as well as we don't really have the oversight to probably execute that for a city of our size. When it comes to the overall messaging, again, in relation to the contract, it can't be political in nature. It is literally registered to vote, make your voice heard, go out and vote. What are we voting for? I don't know, because we're not here to push a political campaign. And a lot of times what those are written out, and the samples that were submitted or given are, check your city or check your county or check your local propositions that are on the ballot. It's not the point of this project to push the ballot, but more so rather than
so let me give an example.
More people registered.
Let me give an example. So they say we approve this and it goes through. You said they go refer them to the city website or something. Well, when we did a tax rollback, the city's position was they were for the tax increase. Okay, so if they were to go to the website, city website or Facebook group or whatever, the information given to them would be in favor of So there would already be a political party or a political side or an influence set. Does that make sense?
It does, except for the fact of when that happened, I personally had to make 5 different trifolds about this tax rate, that tax rate, and this tax rate that were given out at whatever they were called, budget meetings or special meetings at the time that were up here on the table to show the information of this rate, that rate, and the other. And again, I think that that's like a campaign to show if this is what we're informationally trying to change, whereas this contract specifically is, we're not proposing anything. We just
Shouldn't.
No, yeah, we're not allowed to. Like, if anything, what Peter's gonna say is, I'm not gonna approve that, I'm not gonna pay for it. I then gonna have to explain to council, well, I spent $10,000 that local policy lab said they were gonna give us 50, but because it was political in nature, they're not fronting the bill. So
So
that,
that's, I mean, there's just too much gray area. We could, let's just make a flyer then to make it simple. So there's nothing that could be skewed either way. Let's just make a flyer that says vote November 5th and give it to everybody. And if
where
they
would
want
we,
to-
put- and that's what I'm saying that we would do.
Or put up. a
Where do
vote.
we pay for that?
But I mean, anything above that, I mean, there's too much gray area.
So let me.
Let's, Ms. Yancey wants to get in, and I think Mayor Pro Tem.
So,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
Texas has some of the lowest voting rates in the nation.
Yes,
Less than 52%
Yes, ma'am.
of our population votes. So this is more about voter education.
100%.
The other thing that I think that I need to put on the record here for the city of Lamarque, we're only 14 miles wide. But because of that latest district ruling, we will now have 3 county commissioners that
Mhm.
we,
That
because they
take
have
up a piece
slashed
of
us
Lamar.
up
Yes,
3
ma'am.
different ways. So voting for our little small town is critical because together we do have a collective action, right? As a city collective, regardless of how you vote. But because we've been split up by a third, little part here, a little bit part, voting is going to be critical. It's about voter education. You can't force people what to vote. It's just about, I'm a history teacher, so we
Sure.
teach voter engagement. You cannot tell them what to vote for. You explain to them the democratic process. I guess from what I saw in the packet, that's what this is about.
I think
Just- that's our democracy. That's how
Yes,
we
ma'am.
have representation. Anybody
Mhm.
that doesn't want an American to vote, that's a problem. I understand that there are some issues with the messaging, but voter engagement is just vote on November 4th. Do your American duty. You're not telling anybody to vote, to which way to vote.
Yes, ma'am.
I understand he was talking about monitoring, but this is nonpartisan. And the Houston Endowment Fund, they are pretty strict on where they give their money. If you know anything about that fund,
Yes, ma'am.
I think it's a beauty. I think it's something that as Americans, we should do, we don't do. And so Texas is trying to become a state that votes, and we're not known for that. So that's why you have these groups that are coming together to get people to encourage vote. So I just want to let Councilman Lowry know that it's not about pushing any agenda other than exercise your birthright.
Well, and I think the
voting.
way that we would even outline this is to not even, it would not even be vote at, like, this isn't necessarily be pushed at the,
I mean, League City.
when I said, I was about to say, when I say city level, I don't necessarily mean, I mean for city elections,
Mhm.
nor is it county elections. What this, again, because it's not a political campaign on behalf or in opposition to any specific candidate or public office. It is specifically just to encourage the come out. Because for our city specifically, we have a 10% voter turnout. And the only reason I know this
Say
is
that again,
because
we have a what?
I believe it's 10%.
Wow.
Yes,
Only
ma'am.
10%
If
of
you-
our
Of our
citizens vote.
population. Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
And so again, that's why Mr. Zahn and some of these other organizations, whereas Lamarque and I love kind of hearing the history, you talked history, but we are this small town, but we're standing at a precipice. And I know Mayor Pro Tem tells me all the time, we're gonna always be a bedroom community. And I can respect his point of view because that's his vote. And I guess my point is regardless of what the future may hold, it's just that democracy is at play, that we can all have our 3 minutes, if you will.
Yeah. Mayor Pro Tem.
two quick items, and then I'm gonna move that we approve the agreement, but Joseph, I don't see a problem, but here's why I think will help you, help all of us.
Yes, sir.
Actually, Mr. Peter has a samples of what they've done in other areas already.
Mhm.
So just forward us some samples.
Not having to reinvent the wheel is
Exactly,
beautiful, beautiful blessing. Yes, sir.
That side, and then to demonstrate that it's not promoting any political philosophy. It's basic American one. Just get out and vote, please.
Yes, sir.
That's it.
Yes, sir.
And
And I think like if you look at the cyclical nature of this, on election years, you see endowments such as the Houston Endowment make initiatives for it to trickle down. And I think the beauty of something like this is the fact that as Peter pointed out, this is not for a big city like Houston. It's not for a big city like Austin or Dallas or the places that I've served before, but it's saying, well, let's not forget about the outskirts. Let's not forget about some of the smaller communities. And, you know, for me, regardless of people's politics, it's just again, it's the push of just being heard.
It can be, we can do this, I think by acting tonight, if we, in your motion, Mayor Pro Tem, is certainly to help alleviate some of Councilmember Lowry's concerns, perhaps we might add to this motion that we want to see in our community dates for voting, right? Locations for voting, ways to vote, right? We want to try to limit it to those basic pieces of information. If we can perhaps, Gus,
No, I'm listening.
if we can perhaps make that a part of our motion, Councilmember Lowry might have at least some parameters where he can feel comfortable that the council gave some sort of a direction.
Okay.
And we can still expedite this and get it done in a timely fashion. Gus, would that be allowable?
That would be fine. I mean, council can say that the communication would be factual to track the language of the election code.
Very good. Councilmember Lowry, would that help if you were able to say, listen, you know, I want us to approve this. We're gonna give dates, right, to vote, early voting, election day. We'll give locations in our city, right? And we will certainly encourage you in how to vote. Nothing more, nothing less.
Correct.
And get samples before they go out.
Sure.
I want to see them.
Okay.
the samples.
Yeah, I think that's an easily executable
And
request. Yeah.
And the other thing that Gus said, yeah, I just want to make sure that this whole process is legal as far as once it's approved, it's taxpayers' money being used for voting purposes. And Gus's
It's not
response
taxpayer
is.
money.
Yeah, so,
It's,
that, first of all, the contract speaks to that. And it says, and I'll read all of it just for purposes of completeness. The grant shall not be used in any attempt to influence legislation within the meaning of Internal Revenue Code, section 4,911, subsection D, as interpreted by applicable Treasury regulations and rulings of the Internal Revenue Service. Grantee, that's the city of Lamarque, shall not use any portion of the grant to participate or intervene in any political campaign on behalf of or in opposition to any candidate for public office, to induce or encourage violations of law or public policy, or to cause private inurement or improper benefit to occur, nor to take any other action inconsistent with section 501C3 of the code. That's the Internal Revenue Code. So in the agreement, the city is agreeing to not participate in campaigns or intervene in any way on behalf of or against any opponent, any candidate. Separate and apart from that, the use of you cannot use public funds for political advertising. That's in the state's election code. But that use of public funds, that's not really political advertising if the communication is factual and describes the purpose,
Mhm.
and does not advocate passage or defeat of the measure. If all the city is doing, and I don't know what is being proposed specifically, but is election day is November 4th. The deadline to register to vote is October something. Those are factual, and I will be honest, those are dates that are found on the Texas Secretary of State's website. Ms. Nance and I refer to those routinely in our job for you all.
Yeah.
But those are dates that are available to the public, not just to Ms. Nance and I. So communicating that same factual information that's on the Texas Secretary of State's website, I don't see.
Let's, so this is a grant funding opportunity, correct? So
Correct.
you were speaking about public monies, right?
Correct.
So how when we are awarded a grant, it comes from a government or a private organization or whatever. When we receive it, does it then become public funds at that point? And so that's where the next part of your,
Right,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, you couldn't, yes. Yeah, somebody can't give you all money and then
it becomes public.
then it becomes
gotcha.
public.
And one last thing, if we could just send a copy to Dwight Sullivan's office too, just so
Sure.
it's everything's on the up and up.
Sure. Do you feel like the motion that have we made a motion?
No.
I haven't yet.
Okay, do you want to, Mayor Pro Tem, you were going to make the motion,
Yeah,
right?
I'll make the
Would
motion.
you somehow encapsulate what Councilman Lowry is trying to articulate in his
Yeah,
concern?
sure. I move approval of the grant agreement and acceptance of the grant proceeds, including providing the council samples of previous information pieces and certainly accepting, and this is just internal to us, share the document to the whole world. This is what we're doing, right?
Get out and vote.
Yeah, get out and vote, and to Dwight and to whomever, all the world.
Yes.
All right, we're proud of that. Get out and vote.
Is that,
All right.
is that second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
I just want to say that if we don't use the greatest line from a dystopia comic book and movie, remember the 5th of November, we have failed with this process. So
We may have to get approval if that is partisan, but you know.
Trademark.
get a little Hugo Weaving on
Sure,
there and we're good.
One last thing about
Yes,
this,
sir.
it cannot be used or no money can be given to a third party, correct? No.
We look at the contract. I don't know.
There's a consultant I see in there.
Peter?
Yeah, if I might make a comment.
Peter.
The city can do it either engaging their own contractor, like let's say you want to get something printed up, you go directly to the printer. It's possible that you could go through us. But I think we would encourage you to go direct if you already have these relationships. But whoever we would go to, it would be with your, total approval and involvement. We're not just going to go out and engage with any other party unless you guys knew about it.
Is that
Yeah,
what you were referring to?
Yeah, or if there, no funds can be given to,
Like, I'm not gonna cut a check to James Osteen LLC and say, execute this.
or here's a gift card.
Correct. No, sir.
Give it
Yeah.
to your candidate.
Correct.
or-
And I think the way that it's written in here, and Gus, remind me if we went through, or Peter, but it's to like what he just said. Like, oh, well, we can facilitate the printing if it's printed material or if it's digital material or whomever. Like, if you want to pay someone to create graphics and all of the above as a contractor, the thing is the city, we would just create those, obviously within the guidelines of the motion, and be able to distribute that or have not in-house printing, but we would use our printer that we use for everything else, budget books. Yeah.
Very good. You made your motion.
Yeah, it was second.
Mr. Ross seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 7-5, elected.
Thank
and
you.
Thank you.
all.
Thank you. Elected and appointed officials, reviewing policy and procedure related to inquiries regarding complaints against an elected or an appointed official. Okay. Well, I started to look your way because I think this is your part.
Okay.
Reviewing policy and procedure related to inquiries regarding complaints against elected or appointed officials. Gus, you wanted to bring this forward so that the council and our community can understand simply the process that this takes, the process that takes place, not only for, a lot of people tend to think it's simply for council members, but this is also for the members, the appointed members of our staff that we supervise. That would be Mrs. Nance, that would be yourself, that would be Mr. Garcia, that would be Judge Pettijohn, you again as our prosecutor. Man, I feel like I'm missing somebody. I'm not, okay. So those 5 persons also would fall under this procedure for complaint, as well as every member of our board and commission. Is that correct? So this does not simply deal with 5 folks here, it deals with 5 other folks that are paid staff, and I would say 50, 60, 70 folks that volunteer in appointed positions. And Gus, you wanted to take the opportunity to explain how this complaint process works.
So I begin, first of all, that nothing in the ordinance that the city of Lamarque passed does anything to abrogate or modify the conflicts of interest and ethics rules that the state of Texas has adopted through its laws, and that the city is bound to as by virtue of being a political subdivision of the state. I'm not going to bore council with all of those right now, but for example, the conflict of interest disclosures that every vendor has to fill out, that still has to happen. So those laws remain in place and are unchanged. What the ethics ordinance that the city of Lamarque passed deals with the council's expectation of behavior of itself. Council is a judge of its own members. So its expectations of itself, along with its expectations of, for lack of a better term, the people, the representatives of that council. And I want to be clear here. Mr. Garcia, Ms. Nance, myself, the boards and commissions, we are not representatives. I am not saying that. What I'm saying is that we are who the citizens oftentimes interact with more than you all. Or the same, you know, but we are who businesses, we are who people interact with when they're interacting with the city. As a council manager form of government, you all are not involved in the day-to-day of the city. When somebody, I mean, you all have been here on citizens' behalf to advocate, and I'm not saying that, but when somebody wants to do business in the city, they don't necessarily reach out to Councilmember Lowry if they want to relocate to District C, or Councilmember Ross if they want to relocate to District D. They would reach, and I don't know how they do it, but they reach out to the EDC or an economic development coordinator or the city manager's office, you know. So these are people, so this policy was council's expectations for everyone. And how council wants people to conduct themselves now. And you know, and I think it's the mayor pro tem, but you too, Mayor, and so it's kind of like you've all said it. You know, it's important to have written expectations of people so that here's what we expect. That's kind of what this policy was or is. You know, as far as complaints are concerned, it depends on who the complaint is about. If it's about me, Ms. Nance, or Mr. Garcia, or me as the municipal prosecutor, you all act more in your role as supervisors. If it's about a boards and commissions member, it's similar, depending on the removal, rights or opportunity rights and powers that you all have. And then as amongst yourselves, it's really, here is the policy, here's the expectation, here's what we've been presented with, and then how do you all council want to handle that? And it's like that with everyone. It's unique to y'all because with you all, as I said, you're the police of yourselves. Your rights to express disapproval are there. If you don't like something that's said or something that's done, let me rephrase that, something that is done, you all can talk about that. And this policy was a means, as I understood it from what you all said. And please correct me if I'm wrong. I don't want to put words in y'all's mouths, but a way for y'all to express your expectations. And so if that answers those questions, I can move towards kind of what happens if somebody complains and specifically get you all's thoughts and hopefully consensus on that. You good with that? Does that sound?
Council, we good so far? Very good. So now let's get into I think the more important, I think we all got it, that part.
Yeah.
But the bigger part of this is the actual nuts and bolts. Step one, step two, where does it come from? Where does it go? So
Right. Right. And okay. So when it refers to Ms. Nance, me, Mr. Garcia, appointed officials who y'all supervise, if there is a complaint, it would likely, recognizing that I'm as an outside employee a little different, it would likely proceed something more akin to an HR issue. Where is this said and you proceed under more of a discipline approach. Progressive discipline is what the city's handbook says. Obviously, I'm not trying to throw myself in there. I recognize as an outside employee, the rules are a little different, or the procedures are a little different. As to you all, kind of what was discussed at the, or kind of what was envisioned is this: if a complaint is made, it goes to Ms. Nance. Ms. Nance's role is receiving it. Ms. Nance is the person who receives it because she is the city clerk, and that is her role for everything. That when people want to communicate with the council, I mean, we would never tell anyone, let me be clear, we would never tell anyone they can't contact you all. But formally, the way the process works, like at these meetings, it's given to Ms. Nance, who then forwards it to you all. In this instance, it's given to Ms. Nance. She then sends it to me and I look at it and then we'll, say, do I think this rises to needing to go to council or not? Do I think this basically passes the initial threshold? I'm not saying it is a violation, but do I think it potentially passes that and council needs to address it? Of course, if council is free to amend that approach, if council wants to receive everything, council can. We can, and I want to be clear. Council is free to amend this, but if council wants, at the beginning of every meeting to have Ms. Nance print out a stack of 5 copies of each, if there are any, and give them to y'all, and y'all decide at the next meeting what y'all want to do, we can do that. We haven't done that yet, but it's just been this. I think this arises to it or it doesn't. At that point, it goes to you all, Mayor. Y'all can talk about it. Y'all can ask the person who's been complained about. You can send me or send someone to ask questions of the complaint. I mean, there's really a whole myriad of things you all can do. And then once you all decide that you have enough information, on the allegation, it becomes how do you all want to proceed? The options generally available to you all, and this has been done before my time here. You know, generally the council can censure somebody. That's the expression of disapproval. A formal expression of that, put another way, it's basically, I would say it's reassuring the public that if there is a comment made, it's not a comment of the whole count. It's not a comment of the city. It's, for example, if I said something, it's like, that's not Gus speaking in his capacity as the city attorney. That's Gus speaking in his capacity as an individual person. So that's that's how we've been proceeding initially. But we recognize there were a lot of questions when this was passed. So we wanted to bring it back and talk to you all and see, is that, something that council likes? Do they not like it? Let us know. I mean, we're here to do what y'all tell us.
Let me, let's see if we can try to make sure that we bring it all together.
Sure.
Because I have questions about some of this.
Sure.
So when it's an appointed official, a volunteer appointed official, let's say the chairperson of the Economic Development Corporation. What I need to understand is if that person is being complained against, would that complaint originate in the city clerk's office?
Ideally, it would be sent to her. Yes.
And so we want to make this uniform. So every complaint needs to be submitted to the city clerk, because the city clerk is the person responsible for our records.
Correct.
Whether it be an appointed official, whether it be an elected official, or even those appointed paid staff members. Now, the complainant may be the HR department, right?
Right.
But it still needs to go through the person who holds our records, right? And the very next step then would be for it to go to you.
Right.
Because you are the person that is responsible for providing us legal advice, right?
That's correct. And to follow up on what where I believe you're going, Mayor, I would also, I mean, if it's a complaint about, if it's a staff member complaining about a supervisor and it goes to Ms. Nance because they want to file an ethics complaint with the council, well, that may happen, but that also needs to go to HR.
Right.
And so
that from our part of the process, it originates with Ms. Nance.
Right. But that's one of the things I would do when I look at it, is say, okay, this can go there. I'm not saying it can't, but council, this also needs to go to HR because council isn't involved in the administrative under the charter.
She gets the initial complaint. She forwards those complaints to you. You look at those complaints to see if they potentially either violate an ethics ordinance or puts the city in your opinion, and it's just your legal opinion, puts the city in some sort of compromised position. Right?
Correct.
Okay. Once that happens, once you make that determination, you then forward that to the council, right?
I can, yes.
If you determine that this potentially is an ethics violation or puts the city in some sort of position where we would
Legal jeopardy.
Legal jeopardy. Thank you for that. Then you would forward that to council.
Right.
Here's the other part that we need to understand. Once it's forwarded to council, and there is whether it be in an open session or an executive session, once the council convenes, your role then is to simply read the complaint and provide any supporting documentation
that I have at that time, and to listen to what council says they want done.
Right. So in other words, you read off the complaint, any supporting documentation, and then if it's, let's say it's a board member, an elected official or an appointed official, then they will have an opportunity to respond.
They will. Yeah.
Right.
As would happen, I mean, this is not an HR event, but that's
Right.
how the city does it.
Right, right. So they would have an opportunity to respond.
Correct.
And in that, the council is still simply listening.
Yeah, yeah, council can do it as they see fit, yes.
So council listens, let's say, the city clerk, was being complained on because she, I don't know, she cursed, right? And there's documentation, you have all the documentation. At that point, we would say, Ms. Nance, what is your response? And she could say a number of things, right? She can say, it wasn't me, wasn't there, didn't do it. Or she can say, I did, I was upset. She can say all sorts of things, right? And then the council would be at liberty to provide for a solution, which does not have to necessarily end in censure, right? It could be, how can we work these things differently? What can we do? Kiara could say something to the effect of, I did it, I was upset, I was wrong, and this is how I propose we resolve this issue. And council could accept that, right? This does not have to end in a censure, which is simply council taking a position. Council cannot punish anyone. Well, I take that back. Council can provide for corrective action for those that we supervise, our staff, and we can provide corrective action up through removal for those appointed board members, right? But ourselves, we certainly can't punish one another. We can simply say, whatever one of us or more than one of us has said or done is not a reflection of an entire council. That's basically what a censure is. But we don't even have to do that. We can resolve it, right? Before it even gets to that point.
Correct.
Right? So just because it's a complaint and the council is hearing it does not necessarily mean that it ends in a yay or nay vote on a censure. It could be, let's resolve this. Let's find another way to deal with this, or let's adjust to what has happened to make this a positive thing, right? There are all sorts of things the council can say.
Correct.
That does not have to end in a censure. We then would come back out, or we would, if we're already out, the council can then deliberate and choose to take action or not take action.
Correct.
All right, very good.
A couple things, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
This is opening up a big can of worms. Other cities have gotten away from this stuff. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of resources, because at the end of the day, somebody may say something that somebody doesn't like. You censor them, council censor them. At the end of the day, what happens?
Yeah.
What's it do? It accomplishes what? Wasted money in attorney fees, wasted time for the public. So the complaints can go back for how long? 3-4 years? Or do we just want to do this since I was elected? So I think they need to go back about 4 years. Complaints need to go to council, because me and Gus are like best friends, and I don't want him to be more favorable to me than he is to you. Same thing with like Kiera and Gus. So I just want to make sure you guys get fair treatment because of our friendship. You know what I mean? And again, what's censure do? Nothing. It does absolutely nothing but waste time, resources. And as far as legal opinion, I can get a lawyer to counter his legal opinion on anything. That's what lawyers do. He gives an opinion, my lawyer gives a different opinion. So again, we just wasted more money, more resources, waste time and resources. So, and again, you're going to have to go back to the fundamental rights of this country. Freedom of speech. You can't get away from that.
I will say this, Councilmember Lowry, on that note, this country provides for freedom of speech, but that freedom of speech is a freedom from being harmed physically. That freedom of speech is a freedom from being jailed. But our laws would suggest that all speech is not free. Libel laws, laws of slander, as well as laws that protect us from verbal threat. So there's a limit to that piece of it. But I do get where you're coming from. I do. I understand totally what you're saying. I understand why you feel the way you feel as far as why now, and all of the things that you've said. I will say this. One of the reasons, just to respond back to what you were saying, one of the reasons that it goes to our attorney is so that he can formulate a legal opinion. And you're right. There are several attorneys in this region in our country, and I'm sure all of them would have a different position. You're totally right. The issue is he is our legal advocate, and so the reason it goes to him is because there has to be a basis in legality. Some of these things that people would complain about, whether it be Nance, Knable, or you, or whoever. Some of these things may prove to be totally baseless and false, right? And those complaints should not even come across council's desk because there's no basis for it to be a violation, right? And so I think that's why it's filtered that way. But ultimately, the council will decide, right? And I want to say this to you, Councilmember Lowry, and this is why I emphasize this. It does not have to end in a censure. It can end in a resolution, right? I could do or say something that I may not have understood at the moment, provided for issues for my council or even for my constituency. And my peers would be able to bring me, whether in open session or in private, hey, Mayor, that what you did or that what you said did not reflect on our council, right? All of us, or our city in a professional, appropriate manner. And I could say in that moment, guys, I was upset.
So you're referring to things that are set up here?
Well, I'm just saying in general. I'm just generalizing things.
So you're in like personal life, or we're not going to get into what?
No. What I'm saying is our role as a council person. If as a council person, I am conducting myself in a way, saying things or doing things in a way that would put our city in jeopardy, or that our council would say they wouldn't agree with as a council, as a body, as a whole, this process can allow for us to have that discussion. Doesn't always have to end in this person said something or did something that we didn't agree with, and so boom, now there's a censure. It could end in didn't say it. There's no proof of me saying it. It could end in I said it, but this is what I meant, right? It could end in a whole lot of different ways. The last way, trust me, I've been here a long time. The last way that a council wants it to end in is a censure, right? Because at the end of the day, as much as we say this is a council saying that these comments or these actions don't reflect the council as a whole, it still can be perceived as hurtful. I get that. My hope, my expectation is that as these things are processed, this council, the one we have now, can talk about it and we can figure it out, right? And we give each other an opportunity to understand the other side of it. If you aren't intending to be malicious, or Mayor Pro Tem isn't intending to be malicious or hurtful, or I'm not intending to be malicious or hurtful in my actions or my speech, and we are made aware of it, then we might be able to correct it, right? I didn't mean that. Never did I mean to say this and for folks to mean this in this way. This is what I was trying to say. And then the council can then support that person, right? So there's a lot of concern, and I get it in what you're saying, especially a person that loves free speech such as yourself. I get it. I understand where you're coming from. I think we have to, this is one of those bridges we have to try to slow walk moment by moment, instant by instant, to see if we can come up with a solution. May not always work, Councilmember Lowry, but certainly we have to try to do something, right? To make sure that we're all on the same page. And again, remember what I said personally. Doesn't always have to end in censure. It could end in whatever it is that you want to say. Hey, listen, I feel strongly about, what I believe in. I can do this, I can do that to work with the council. Hopefully that's how it'll end all the time.
so that there isn't a lot of going back and forth and a lot of contention.
In other cities, it's been mostly used from council member to council member. And that's why this system, this
Yeah.
has been gotten away from the city. So just remember that. And Mr. Garcia, if you would keep track of legal fees pertaining to this. So in 6 months or in 3 years, we can see how much money we've wasted.
Sure.
That's
fair.
For
That's fair. I'll do you one even more than that, Councilmember Lowry. You said 2 or 3 times tonight that in other cities, cities are moving away from that, right? I would be willing to have a conversation with you at City Hall. Let's talk about those cities. Let's talk about what other cities are doing, right? To try to help keep us together as a cohesive unit, still being able to be individuals, still being able to share what we believe about the best way forward for our city. But doing it differently. If there is a different way, I would love to have that conversation.
Because I don't think it's anything that's being said or done in here that's an issue. I think that it's what's said outside of here, which wouldn't pertain to anything happening in here. So I think what is happening.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ms. Lowry.
I think what's happening is people may not like talking about certain things, whether it's corruption, those type of things. And then again, if we have something that's brought to an attorney, how's he going to investigate that? If I know that it's accurate and true, the person that I'm talking about may not like that. How's he going to, do I have to show him the evidence to?
So Councilmember Lowry, the word corrupt is associated with some sort of criminal or nefarious behavior.
Sure, I know exactly.
And if you're suggesting that there are persons that are corrupt, then we would not only be able to see the evidence, but also more importantly than the evidence, there has to be a conviction. In order for someone to be corrupt, that person who's innocent until proven guilty, right? They would have had to go through the whole judicial process and be convicted of a crime in order to be considered a criminal and therefore corrupt.
We'll use the word criminal instead of corrupt.
Okay.
Now, to be a criminal, you don't have to be convicted yet. So if I call somebody a criminal, they're engaging in criminal activity, that is a criminal. So there's another thing, it's do what you guys want, but I'm telling you.
You're a part of our council. And so we want to work through things.
If
Mr. Lowry.
anybody here thinks that they're gonna muzzle me, it ain't gonna happen. I'm telling you that now. I'm telling you that too. It's not gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen.
We
So-
appreciate that, Mr. Lowry, and I don't think the intent is to muzzle anybody. I think the intent is to protect the city at all costs, right? I wouldn't want to muzzle you. You've been saying things for about 3+ years, and I haven't at any time been on social media to respond to any of those things that you've been saying. You have a right to say whatever you want to say, right? What I'm saying is, as a council, we have to try to move forward in a cohesive way, and we have to be able to get along and engage one another.
And if I was going to put the city at risk, I would be also putting myself at risk. So I'm not going to put myself at risk of a lawsuit. So why would I put the city at risk or anybody? I'm not going to say something that could. It's not.
What I would suggest, this is definitely an area of concern of yours. It's been an area of concern since you've been elected. And I understand that. If there are other cities that we can talk about that have better solutions, I would be willing to have that conversation with you. I would. I want to try to resolve these issues, but I also want us to find a way to encourage each other to stay focused and to stay on the same page so that we can continue to work together, right? And so that the people that we represent can continue to look to us to represent them, right? And so again, this is one step in a long journey, and we'll get there. Again, whenever you want to have that meeting, we can set that meeting up. I will listen to you on those cities. We can investigate those cities. We can get language back from those cities. I want you to be a part of that process.
And we'll get the cost of the legal.
Absolutely. That's fair. All of that's fair. Mayor Pro Tem.
First, Joseph, he's my best friend. You know, I know his boss. I know his boss. He was my roommate in law school, so he's my best friend. I remember that. But it's a couple of things, just some listening. This ethics policy, as I've grown to think about it a little bit more, I feel uncomfortable that it's opened the door to ethics complaints from anywhere. That's one big point that I know it's hot.
You say it's hot?
Yeah,
It's hot.
poor man's
It
over
is.
there about to
It's
pass
hot.
out. I'll make it quick. It's the door is open to a complaint coming from anywhere. There's nothing. And I think previously, as I understood the council, it was really as between the council persons, right? You have some problem and I'm gonna do this. So to some extent, if we're gonna look at some amendments to this, I would like to limit the size. It should be among us and then the elected and the appointed. That's the complaining party. The other thing that as part of this, I would invite us or consider us. I looked at the ethics ordinance again. I didn't see any whistleblower protections in there. That's to say, if you, for example, noticed or hear something that something's going on here, that you rightfully should report it, but feel comfortable enough to report it, that you're going to preserve your job. I may be wrong in saying that, but I didn't see it.
No, it's not. It's in the employee handbook and it's
Yeah.
also in state law
Okay.
that the city is bound by.
Okay, well, I just maybe repeating it within the concept of an ethics ordinance is something. And the other part that bothers me is if and when an ethics complaint is filed, if and when it's filed, I think that the complaint, it's going to Kira, and I think Kira, as I understood it, is shared with Gus. I think at some point in that process, it needs to be shared and disclosed to the person to whom the complaint is, to whom the complaint is made, or right, to whom the complaint is directed. It should be disclosed to and not hidden and popped out at some. So kind of basic right to confront your accuser, and I don't know that. Also, you talked about alternatives, maybe it's something, but just two quick ideas. Maybe we looked at, and this also would involve some attorney fees, but we might consider as an option asking for an advisory opinion. We don't agree on this, perhaps an advisory opinion as to the particular subject, and as an alternate to having perhaps an action that's called the sense of the council. It's not a censure, but here's the sense of the council as a whole. We disagree with this statement or whatever the case may be, right? That we don't support. Those are just some thoughts.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Before I get this side in, Councilmember Lowry, did you hear what Mayor Pro Tem just said? The sense of the council? What are your thoughts on that?
By just council? I think that's, we're getting into, we're opening up a can of worms.
Okay.
In other cities, let's use League City for an example. It was used internally more than it was from citizens. So again, and then we're wasting money on a lawyer, we're wasting money on the city clerk, wasting her time, and then we're volunteers. Do you want to hear complaints about me because I don't like somebody on social media? I mean,
You said you were talking about League City. You said it was used primarily internally. What do you mean by that?
council to council.
Council to council.
I don't, me and Mr. Compion don't get along, so I'm gonna say that, man, when we were leaving, he gave me an ugly stare out in the parking lot.
Do they still have their policy
No,
as far as
sir,
you know?
not to my knowledge.
Council on this side,
They have a censorship they do, I lived in Lake City. They do have a censor program there. You can ask Justin Hicks, he'll let you know. First of all, let me say this, even student councils have a code of conduct. It is important that we protect our democracy, that we have a code of ethics, that we have a level of professionalism that we adhere to. We represent not only ourselves, but when you carry the name of councilman, councilwoman of the city of Lamarque, you represent the city. And so it's important that we always show a level of professionalism, and because of the political climate that is happening here in Galveston County, I believe it's important that we govern ourselves. We have to model the expectation that we expect our citizens to follow. So you can't tell people you will get a ticket for a terroristic threat if that's what you're doing. You can't slander people. You can't say it's a crime to slander people, and then we're doing the slandering. So it's important that we, as representatives of this great state of Texas, that we actually raise our hands and take an oath to protect the Constitution and protect the city of Lamarque, that we always make sure that we display that level of professionalism. The citizens have elected us, to be that representation. Now, people have a right to the First Amendment rights, but you do not have a right to harass. That's fellow councilmen and the public. That is also a representation of our city. You are no longer Kimberly Yancey, the mother of Joshua, Caleb, Jennifer, and Joshua, and the husband of Pastor Yancey. I am now the councilwoman of Lamarque, the great city of Lamarque. And so what we do will be scrutinized. What we say now has value. And so I believe it's important that we model that expectation, that we have an ethics policy. I'm fine with the one that we have presently, that we have all voted on. As far as it, and like the mayor said, and I know we talked one-on-one, no one wants to censor people. If it's, hey, I'll apologize, or, I don't want to be censored, let me talk to that person one-on-one to get a clear understanding. The Bible says when you have a problem with your brother, to go one-on-one. And that's what we should try to do if you are a Christian.
I think we should have public input on this.
So that's what, it's my time. So that's why I think it's important, because our kids are watching us. The youth council that we're going to talk about later in this agenda will be watching how we behave. So I think it's important that we have a set of ethics, and it's sad that we have to even talk about this, because in the past we had one. So I just think, and that's just not to protect ourselves, but just each other as a team. I've talked to Councilman Lowry one-on-one, and I've said it's hard to defend ugliness. It's hard to defend that, because I'm going to defend my fellow councilmen. I don't want people out there talking about the people I serve with. I'm going to defend them as much as I can, but I can't defend that. And that's why I said it's important. If a student council, and those of us who have participated on student council, you and I know there is a code of conduct. So what this is basically saying is that we're agreeing to adhere to this. And I believe that's all it's saying. Now, if there's some issues, some wiggly room as far as before we get to censorship, there's a sense of the council, I believe we can just talk about it. I don't understand why we just have to move straight to censorship. Why can't we just talk about it? This is a concern. This is becoming a pattern. Because when you have other elected officials from other cities, and I will put this on the record, basically saying, if this continues, I will not do business with the city of Lamarque because of one or two persons, that's not good. Because that is not the norm in Galveston County. You normally don't see elected officials going after each other. We don't normally do that like that. Not not with a propaganda page, not with, going after families and going after, that is unprofessional, and it's not good ethics for people that represent the government. Now, maybe I have high standards. I don't know. But I just think we have to model the expectation for young people that are coming up that are watching us. And we ought to be able, I mean, we all get criticized. We criticize each other. I think we do that pretty regularly, right? We battle it out pretty regularly. But I do believe that you have to do that because we're here a lot together. So we have to get along because we want to do the work of the people. And we want to get along. I think this will help us to get along. And my thing is, I don't understand how people have time to do so much other stuff because there's so much to do here in this city. But anyway, Mayor, I think I want everyone to know I'm going to defend my fellow council persons when I can, when I think you're right. But when people are offensive and ugly and downright just un-American, I can't defend that. And I can't tell other people in the community and fellow elected official that I even agree with that because I don't. And I don't feel comfortable being in a conversation when I'm having to talk about a fellow council person. I don't like that because we work together. But we have to be able to say, hey, calm it down. Sit back. Let's see what we can do. I want us to work together. But again, I say we must model the expectation of professionalism and Americanism that we want to see. It's not about us. It's no longer about you. It's about the people when you sit in these seats. Thank you, Mayor. That's all I have.
Mayor, I think we need to
Yes,
have
sir.
public input on this. And as long as everybody up here on council, I know there was talk about terroristic threat. Nobody up here, to my knowledge, has had any terroristic threat. Nobody up here's got any harassment charges. So it needs to be opened up to the public for public comment. And as long as everybody up here is following the laws of Texas, I don't see an issue. I don't see an issue.
You mean you don't see an issue to have the ethics policy? Is that what you're saying?
We don't need it. If everybody's following the law, I mean, an ethics policy, that should be like, don't take a bribe from a developer in the city of Lamarque. That would be an ethics policy that I would enforce or encourage. Don't take a donation and not report it on a campaign finance report. Those are the type of things that I would highly recommend. Those things be an ethics ordinance, but
The person that didn't do one.
So, I'm sorry, Councilman Lara, will you finish with your statement?
we're just opening up a can of worms because this thing's going to go back.
He can vote
4
against
years.
it.
Mr. Ross, did you have something you wanted to add?
If Mr. Lowry would like to open this up to public conversation at the next council meeting, not tonight because it's late, I'm tired and I'm starting to get cranky. Really damned hot. I have no issues with that. It is in our policy that if you have taken a campaign contribution, you can't vote on anything that developer does.
If you report the donation.
Also, I firmly believe that once you're elected and become a public official,
Hold on just a minute. Yeah.
you can't take that hat off anymore. President Trump can't take it off. President Biden can't take it off. Senator Cruz can't take it off. Governor Abbott can't take it off. Once you're elected, you wear it all the time. So you have to watch how your words are said because you are now portraying the city. Whether I think it's right or wrong for you to always have the city on your back as a steward of the city, that's not my decision. That is somebody else's out there that has decided that point. Anytime any one of us up here open our mouth, we have the potential to speak for the city. So that's why I try not to speak very much on Facebook unless I go directly to my councilman page to say that. In other social media sites, because I don't want to have that opportunity to make us five look bad. And I think highly about us five, and I do look forward to the next at least 20 months before the next election cycle to working with you and trying to make it farther down the road. So I yes, I'll agree with if you want to do public comments at the
Let's,
beginning of next,
yeah, let's,
I'm okay with that.
let's not put the cart before the horse. When we passed this ordinance, we said we would review it in 6 months. It's been 3 already. So we can review it at that time.
That
Yeah,
With public comment. Correct. That's what you're saying?
in 6 months, yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're about 3 months out of our review. And at that time, we can have public comment.
I'm
Ms.
good with
Yancey,
that.
I'm sorry, Mr. Ross.
I'm good with that also, Mayor, that
Yeah.
3 months when we review, we can.
Have public comment. Very good. Ms. Yancey, did you want to? Well, council, did we get all our questions answered as it relates to process? Very good. This will be one step at a time, obviously, for this. I will end this with Councilmember Lara, if you want to have that sit down, I'm interested in that. We can meet here with Gus and look at what other cities do and look at how we can best handle this. The idea is for us to work in unison. And the idea is to keep our city out of any sort of legal jeopardy. And if we can craft some things that would address that, I'd be willing to work that road with you. So let's keep that in mind. And let's see if we can perhaps get together and try to do something about that.
Yes, sir.
Any further questions on that? Thank you, council. Item 8, new business. Items presented to council for discussion and possible action. 8.1, proposed ordinance establishing a youth advisory council, providing for an effective date and making other provisions related to the subject. This was brought to us by McKinsey on, was it last meeting? Last meeting? Council, do we have any questions as relates to item 8.1? This is the first reading. Hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 8.2, memorandum of understanding, a memorandum of understanding with the Texas Department of Transportation for 100% funding by TxDOT for State Highway 3 Emancipation Trail project. Mr. Garcia, is there something that you would like to add on this particular agenda item?
Very briefly, Mayor, the only difference between this is you've already accepted the grant award. The only difference with this MOU is that if there are any cost overruns, they will not be the city's responsibility. TxDOT will bear that responsibility.
Okay.
So if it goes over, it is not only is it a zero match, but if there's any cost overruns, they will handle it. They handle the entire project in its entirety, including possible overruns if they were to come up.
Very good. Any questions as it relate to item 8.2?
Move to approve.
Move to approve. There a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Item 8.3 is the one that will be pulled.
Yes, sir.
Let's move then to item 8.4. Acceptance of grant award, approving and accepting the grant award from the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles Catalytic Converter SB 224 grant. Mr. Garcia, is that you?
Yes, sir, it is. This item is one where we teased you with the fact that it was coming down the pike. We had gotten word right before the actual last meeting, and it was for purchase of several items that were requested through our public safety program. What we did is we actually took advantage of a window that was available to us to go back to the funding agency and actually ask for more dollars. You know, why not try? And we did so, and they came back and said, yes. Not only is it now going to be, instead of the $700,000 that was before, it'll be up to $904,000. This is a zero match grant through the Catalytic Converter grant that you authorized for us to go after April of 2024. The grant includes 1 drone, 50 tasers, 40 flock cameras for up to 5 years with all the fixings, 1 mobile video surveillance camera, and also this includes all the warranties, batteries, chargers, etc.
1 drone, 50 tasers. What else?
40 flock cameras
40
for
flock
5
cameras.
years.
And
And one-
sounds like the maintenance and upkeep for 5 years?
Yes.
The
And it
40
was
flock
also, one mobile video surveillance camera tower.
40 flock cameras for 5 years. And you said what was the last thing?
One mobile video surveillance camera tower.
Is that the camera that Chief Argon was suggesting we get and put in Walmart's park? There you
Yes.
go, Chief.
Yes, Mayor.
You go hiding back there.
That is exactly the one. If you
The
remember,
Walmart camera?
it was proposed that we get two.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
It's a trailer, we can
Like-
put it anywhere, it's obvious, anywhere that we're having a crime issue, we can put it there, and we can watch it remotely.
Gotcha.
Best part is it was asked for us, it was recommended by our public safety for us to get two. We approached one. This is mounted on a trailer. It is mobile. We can take it anywhere, so we could use it for special events. We could use it as needed.
Okay. But we got one.
We got one funded in the cycle for this grant.
Ross, did you have something?
No, one's better than none, so.
Okay. Okay.
So what we're asking for you tonight is the authorization to sign the zero match grant for $904,000 to get this equipment ordered.
Very good. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion on this?
Who's the grant writer for this?
This one was by Miss Alice Ashley through Provisions.
Provisions?
That's the name of her company.
That's good work.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
Miss Ashley has been her record for securing grants. Do we have a percentage?
I could work one up, sir.
Yeah,
Yes.
that'd be interesting.
Something back there.
Chief Argon?
There, one had four things.
Did you need to, yeah, Chief, come to the microphone so we can have the community hear what you're saying. Thank you.
I just want to reiterate, I said this at the budget workshop. There's four reasons why we're getting all these windfall grants. Number one, we have an excellent grant writer, Alice Ashley. Number two, we have a high crime rate, but we're doing something about it. And number three, we're asking for help, and they see that. And that is exactly why we're getting all these grants, no match grants, Mayor.
Very good. Thank you for that, Chief.
Mayor,
Yes,
we
sir.
promised that we would be aggressive to address the needs. Whatever stone left unturned, we were going to go find it and turn it.
Very good. Any further discussion, council? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Council item 8.5 is being pulled tonight. Too much pressure. No, item 8.5 is being pulled tonight because we need an extra day. I believe Ms. Nance wants us to act on this, or, well, I said that wrong. The time frame for us to act on this, according to Ms. Nance, is tomorrow, no later than Thursday.
No later than Thursday.
Okay, we have to, and this is only a proposed rate.
Yes, it is just.
Not the final rate.
No, it is just proposing a tax rate and setting the date
For the
public
hearings.
hearing.
We
Yes.
propose it and then we allow for a hearing and then our residents can come and say yes, no, up, down.
Absolutely,
That's all this is.
yes,
Okay, but not tonight.
no, sir.
Okay, very good. So we'll move past that. Just wanted to give an explanation. 8.6 would be appointments, appointment, removal of members of boards, commissions, or committees. Council, do we have any appointments that we would like to make tonight? Remember, we have two new committees tonight, the Public Safety Committee, as well as the Ordinance Review Committee. Council, do we have any appointments tonight?
Mayor, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ms. Yes, go ahead.
I'm going to recommend Jamie Loftus to the Public Safety Building Committee.
Is that your primary or your?
That's my
alternate?
primary.
Okay.
I
You
have to
nominate
come back
Jamie.
with a second on that. There's a young lady I need to get with for the ordinance review. So that'll be my only appointment tonight.
Okay, we have District A, Jamie
Loftus.
for the Public Safety Committee. Any other appointments to the Public Safety Committee tonight?
Robert Mitch for District C.
Robin Mishtich for District C. I believe we have Mr. Mishtich's address. Do we have Mrs. I know
Yeah.
it's short, but do we have Mrs. Loftus' address?
I think it's Johnson Street.
Okay, let's make sure we get that. Okay, I'm sure it's the same address, right? Any other appointments on the Public Safety Committee?
I'm gonna nominate Jose Guevara,
Where you-
2817 Johnson
That
Street,
Hmm?
to the Public
Here,
Safety
that's
Committee.
Jamie that way.
Yeah.
Jose Rivaro, Divora. And you can. So that's public safety, and then for the. My alternate, I would like to see Miss Sally Austin, because she was originally on the public safety board, if I remember right, would like to do that. And then my primary for the ordinance review, I would like to nominate Mr. Jimmy Dostine. With a second, with my alternate being Deborah Stewart. At 619 Hollingsworth Lane. For the ordinance review, Mr. Dostine.
Very good.
For my ordinance review, it'll be Robert Mitchell as
Robert
well.
Misick as well, okay.
And then for last council, Ms. Yancey had nominated Mike Webb. But that was actually my appointment. In consideration of what you wanted, I would still appoint Mike Webb.
Okay.
You didn't do any of your alternates, you did your public safety, both of your primaries?
Correct.
I don't think you can only serve on one committee.
I don't, that's a good question. How many, what's the ordinance say about,
You can't serve on two committees.
Oh, you can't serve on two committees.
well, that,
Well,
You can't serve
You
on
can
two.
serve as an alternate.
You can serve as an
Oh,
alternate, I
you
think.
can serve as a
Yeah.
primary and an alternate, but you can't serve as a primary or two.
okay, so I would like to swap Mr. Osteen and Ms. Stewart as my. primary.
Mr. Osteen and Ms. Austin, you mean? Would, Mr. Ross is trying to rearrange his appointments based on the ordinance. Yeah,
Because can't serve on two committees at the same time unless you're the alternate. So since you're on the EDC, have you as the alternate for the ordinance review committee.
Where do you want me at?
I would like you to be the alternate on the ordinance review committee because you are on the EDC board. That's the same reason.
did you have Miss Sally on your public safety or?
As the
She is the alternate.
Of public
is the
safety?
alternate publics for public safety
Okay.
building.
Okay, and Mayor Pro Tem, were you getting ready to?
The Sergeant King, is he a resident of Lamarck, Chief?
No.
No, okay. So my appointment to the public safety would be Chief Wilbur
That
Smith.
was my appointment.
Oh, okay. Well,
Go ahead, go ahead,
No,
go ahead.
no,
I'll
no,
find
no,
somebody
no.
else. I'll think really
well,
quickly.
no, you go ahead. He's right here. But
Go ahead.
what I'll do is this Cleveland Lane then as my appointment for the public safety.
He's on,
Yeah, you can do.
He would
You
have
can
to
do
because
Willamette,
he's
yeah.
already.
he's on.
No, you have somebody else?
he's on
I'll figure it
EDC.
out. Yeah, you can do Willamon. As long as he's on the committee, that's fine.
Okay, so because I believe it's another one. All right, so Chief Smith for the representative, but I can't appoint because we permitted that under the ordinance, a non-resident to serve as an alternate.
That's in order?
Yeah, with the permission of the chairperson. Chairperson needs to, there's language in there. Check it. I wrote it. Yes.
Yeah, verify that. 'Cause I-
Talking about that. I was like, I think they could be a non-voting member, but I gotta.
Yeah, they could be. So I'd like to ask Sergeant King if he'd be my alternate on that,
But are
public
they,
safety.
are they a non-voting member though?
You have to be non-voting since you're not a resident.
Okay.
Okay, but you're still there,
That's
attend the
good to know.
meetings.
Yeah.
And then the other, I don't have anybody yet, right?
So I'm sorry. You appointed
The,
King as a non-voting member and then.
and Willamon Chief Smith as the member.
I think he's talking to you.
No, I'm talking to Miss Jackie. Miss- I want to appoint you to one of these work groups. Are you open to an appointment? Ah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Let me do this. I would, does that make, is the Civil Service Commission,
Board.
does that also apply with this? Yeah. So I would like to then place as an alternate on the Public Safety Committee, Mrs. Jackie Pennington. Miss Jackie, what's your address? 924 Cypress. She will be my alternate on the Public Safety. I will have to, since Joe borrowed my
That's right.
my appointment. JB, we can't appoint your wife. No, JB. I'm teasing. You can approach.
Question than anything else, and not to sway y'all one way or another, but my question was, the police officers that are citizens
Mhm.
of the city, are they allowed to be part of the committee?
Voting citizens, if they're
Yeah.
resident, yeah.
They're resident.
We just don't know who they are.
Gotcha, okay. That was more so my
Nor do
question.
we want to say their addresses in a
No,
public
no,
meeting.
right, and that's not my point of coming up here to
If-
say
if-
who
if-
they are or where they live.
If I were the union president who happens to be perhaps sitting in close proximity, I would call the council and I would say, hey, we have these people who live in the city.
And the only reason I ask that is,
Yeah.
one, as a citizen, but two, because I know the officers are gonna know the state of the building, gonna know the ins and outs of what is needed more than anything else. And if we do have officers that live here
Right.
and that have been employed for a number of years, they're gonna know kind of firsthand knowledge. And that was just my
Right.
question.
We just don't know who they are. right?
Sure,
Right.
absolutely. Thank you.
But if we get the opportunity to know who they are and verify that they live in the community, I wouldn't be opposed to entertaining those appointments.
Could we get maybe if there is Mr. Aragon or Mr. King, if there is any officers that want to be part of this committee, can they let us know? Because I think that's
Yeah.
a major plus of them knowing what they need in the facility. What better person to appoint than an officer that's going to be utilizing the building?
Right, exactly.
Mr. King?
Council, we have several members of the association that do reside in the city. And I would be more than happy to speak with individuals that do and see if they would like to accept an appointment to the board.
Thank
Who
you.
still needs to make an appointment to the Public Safety Committee?
I need an alternate.
You need an alternate?
Yeah.
Do you need anything?
I need an alternate.
If he wishes to serve as an
Yeah.
alternate, or
You need an alternate?
I got two people, but.
Okay, I need a primary. So there are at least 3 or 4 spots still available for any officer who lives in the city to participate.
And
We would just
Council, I
need to
can-
know who they are.
I can take care of contacting them during this week and I can get back to you
Thank you,
by the
sir.
end of next week.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Any more appointments to any boards? So we have a motion for several that you will repeat back to us before we get the second. Is that correct?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, so Councilmember Yancey nominated Jamie Loftus to the Public Safety Building Committee as the primary appointment. I have Councilmember Laurie appointed Robert Mitchtich to the, was that Public Safety Building? Which one did we determine? Public Safety Building Committee, and he also nominated Mike Webb to serve as the District C representative for the Parks Board. Councilmember Ross nominated Jose Devarro, sorry if I.
Mike's on the,
That's.
Mark is, Mike is on the park.
Yeah.
Committee.
D-I-V-O-R.
Yeah.
It's on the.
Okay, actually, if I-
DIVEORA.
if I mispronounced your name, sir, I do apologize.
Right.
As the primary seat and Miss Sally Austin as the alternate for the Public Safety Building Committee. And then for the Ordinance Review Committee, he nominated Deborah Stewart and Mr. James Osteen as the alternate. Mayor Pro Tem Compion nominated Chief Willamon Smith as the primary and Sergeant King as the alternate for the Public Safety Building Committee. Mayor Bell nominated Jackie Pennington as his alternate for the Public Safety Building Committee. Is that correct?
That's it.
Okay.
That's it. So we will entertain a second to all those nominations.
Second.
A second. There is no discussion on appointments. And so we'll move to the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, council. As always, we are at the city manager's report. I will read each line for time consideration. If we have questions or we want to pull one, just yell at me so that we can take care of you after we've made it through this list. 9-1, Lamarck Code of Compliance Statistics, June 24. Anybody? 9-2, Lamarck Police Department Crime Statistics, June 2024. Anybody?
Yes, pull that one.
Okay. 9-3, Lamarck Public Library Statistics, June 2024. Anybody? 9-4, Lamarck Fire Department Statistics, June 2024. Anybody? 9-5, July 4th, Fire Marshal Statistics. Anybody? And then 9-6 will be the good of the order. Before we get to the good of the order, let's move back to 9-2, Ms. Yancey.
So I would like my fellow councilmen to look at the crime rate by council district. I think that's important to note. And just to kind of see where we are population wise. And District A, for the record, does not have the highest crime rates, according to this stat. Unfortunately, it's you, Mr. Rock. I just got it. Give you something to work for, right? Good competition, right? Good competition, dope. But thank you for this, because I believe in data, right? I believe in, let's look at what it is. And if you look at all of this, I think this pushes back on the rhetoric and the lies. And so when we look at District A is the most populated. And if you didn't know, District also has more senior citizens and more children. I think D is the next one right after that. But let the record reflect, District A does not have the highest crime rate any longer in the city of Lamar. That's all I have, Mayor. Just wanted to show that.
Thank you, ma'am.
What, if you don't mind, what, your comment again, the lies, what, can you be more specific?
People saying that District A has the highest crime rate in the county,
And,
or the
and
highest, well, and you can see, but we don't even have the highest, District A doesn't have the highest crime rate in the city.
so I actually become very familiar with these statistics, and I don't know when this one came out, but, and I can give you the open records request showing that District A actually has had
Well,
the,
show it to me.
for many, many years, not just in the city, but in the entire county.
Let's go for it. Show it to me. Let me see the data. I would love to see it. But I want to go by the official data. Is this the official data that I requested? Cesar?
Yes, Councilman, this is the data that was presented to us by our police department.
Okay. But yes, because basically you're challenging the data. So city manager, you've heard that Councilman Lara is challenging your data, and I guess the cops of Lamarck as well. But according to this, and thank you for getting the information, because I think it's good for all of us to know what areas we need to work on, right? And and I would surely hope that Councilman Lowry is wanting to help us all reduce crime in the city. I hope in every district, right? But after seeing this, I would like to put this out here. So when people are out there saying that, they have been shown the data. Now, not everybody, wants to, believe this or that, the other, but let the record reflect that what the city council, what has been presented to council is that. Is that healthy competition, Mr. Lowry? I love you. We're gonna.
No, and this could be updated data. And actually, one of my most, the most important thing to me is crime in our city. And
Correct.
I'm glad that we're actually talking about it. One of the things that I want to talk about it, as long as council and everybody's in agreement with it, is getting more information to the public. Witness identification. If we got a suspect in Mr. Aragon, if we got a suspect that we know burglarized, robbed a convenience store, I think that data needs to be in the public immediately, as long as it's not going to interfere with an investigation. But if we know that such and such person was driving such and such car, that information, as other cities do, needs to be put into the public. Also, as long as nobody has heartburn, if we have a description of those people, that needs to be put in the public as well. And that's a health and safety issue for the public. As long as if we can all agree on that, Mayor, I think that is critical, critical. Not just for the fact that if you're standing next to this person at a convenience store or at a gas station, you know, maybe 10 miles away, you can identify that person. But it would also, in my opinion, unless there's some other data to prove otherwise, but to identify who we're dealing with. I think it's imperative that the public knows, if it's just, it can help solve crimes. We have a vehicle description, a description of the person. If we can all agree to that, I think it would be really good for the public. I really do.
There was a time that we did that.
And
Go ahead, Gus.
if I may, Mayor, the items just noticed to talk about the crime statistics. If council wants to do more, talk about police outreach, that's something that we would have to notice separately and bring to you
That's
all.
fair. That's fair. That's fair. We could do that.
Let me just say this, thank you to the police.
Okay.
Thank you, because I know you guys have really worked on this. And it's something that we, with the community watch, this is great data to show, even at Crime Stoppers, right? To be able to kind of show that when we have that meeting on Wednesdays. But please, Chief, let the department know that I am grateful for the hard work that they put in. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Any further discussion on 9.2? Hearing none, thank you, council. We move now to 9.6, items for the good of the order. Ms. Garcia,
I have nothing, Mayor. Thank you.
you have nothing? All right. Requests and announcements. Request by mayor and council members of items to be placed on future city council agendas, and announcements on city events, community interests. The Texas Government Code 551.415. B, items of community interest include expressions of thanks, congratulations, or condolence. Information 2, information regarding holiday schedules. 3, an honorary or salutary recognition of a public official, public employee, or other citizen, except that a discussion regarding a change in status of a person's public office or public employment is not an honorary or salutary recognition for the purposes of this subdivision. 4, a reminder about an upcoming event organized or sponsored by the governing body. 5, information regarding a social, ceremonial, or community event organized or sponsored by an entity other than the governing body that was attended or is scheduled to be attended by a member of the governing body or an official or an employee of the municipality or county. And announcements involving an imminent threat to the public health and safety of people in the municipality or county that has arisen after the posting of the agenda. I believe, Mr. Ross, you are first tonight.
Budget's been crazy. I hope that we finally get it done by this Thursday. Dear Lord. But fun news. August 18th at the VFW, the Dwarfinators will be there. So if you want to go see little people wrestling, they'll be there. There's gonna be a community, hey, I'm just putting out what the VFW is doing, so. We're working on a community yard sale, September 14th up there. Outside spots, $10 a spot with a $15 donation to the VFW auxiliary for a brown bag auction. Later, $15 a spot inside with the same donation to the auxiliary for a brown bag auction later to help us raise money. And then October 25th through 27th, I'm gonna try to hold a collector's event. So if you got anybody that collects rock comic books, trading cards, I don't care, and you want a spot, it's gonna be $50 for the weekend, Friday through Sunday. And yes, I'm jealous that Beaumont gets a Comic-Con before I do, so I'm hosting before, that way in 2 years it can grow. Please reach out to me, Facebook, if you got my phone number. Either one of them, I'll answer messages at any point in time. That's all I have right now.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. Mr. Lowry.
Mr. Garcia, if we could keep an update, I know we had the hurricane and we've had the I know you guys have been burdened with the debris cleanup and stuff, but if we could please keep up on the ditches that are being dredged, give me locations per district for everybody. Also, if we could get on the next agenda discussion of the helping the public identify potential criminals or suspects in the community. I think that is critical. I think that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Ms. Yancy.
Okay, Cesar, I would like to talk about the idea that we still don't have a park in District A. And I would like to set up some discussions with the Mainland Preparatory School, formerly now called Ignite School, about that land by that school, perhaps doing a park. I know we just talked about it, but I want us to get serious about that, as well as talking to TCISD about the lands that our taxpayer monies have paid for that was in the merger when Tech City and Lamarque merged together, specifically when it comes to Etheridge Stadium. And that we want to try to see if we can get a historical marker to kind of have that be a place that people will come and visit when they come along the Emancipation Trail as well. So we can get into some serious talks, about the land that our taxpayers have they already paid for, trying to see if we can get that back into, at least with the city of Lamarque. And I'm talking about the whole land with the stadium, as well as on Lake Road, that area where the old Lake Road School was. School is starting this week. And so be careful of how you drive, as all the buses will be out. Watch out for the little kiddos. If you don't have any grandkids, but you want to donate to a school, I encourage you to just take a donation of pens, pencils, whatever, to a school, just to say, I live in the neighborhood, I just want to help out. You would not believe how helpful that is to a school district and to a school. And the schools that we have here in Lamarque is Abundant Life School, Mainland Preparatory, the Ignite School, Haley, and Lamarque High School, that are actually in the city limits. Giles Middle School, that is our feeder school where we go to, is in Tech City, but our kids go there. So if I'm asking the citizens that if they would like to be so kind to take anything over to a school district and just tell them I'm a citizen, and I just want to bless the school district. Our schools need a lot of prayer. They are operating with a much lower budget this year because the ESSA funds are gone. And they are really, really going to need the community to step it up to help our children, because the market is growing. We're still a very fast growing city. So, and I just want to say to the staff and to our city manager, be encouraged. I know these last couple of days have been tough with the budget, but we'll get there. And just thank you for your patience as we ask a million gazillion questions. And just know good work always pays off. The good energy always comes back to you when your motives are right. And so we know what we're doing, trying to do is to protect the city. And I just want to say kudos to you all. Everything was not perfect, but there's no perfect church. There's no perfect family. There's no perfect city. There's only a perfect God. So as long as we strive for perfection, we'll catch excellence. But know this, not everybody's perfect, but let's do our best to strive for perfection and just make sure we take our time, right? And look things over and over and over, and give yourselves at least a week to look at the budget, look at the numbers before you turn it over to the council. And I think once you have that week or even 2 weeks to go through the numbers and check them, you'll be able to find the mistakes and fix them before they get to us. And I think that's a procedure that we probably need to put in for next year's budget as well. But with that, watch those kiddos. Y'all have a great week and a great back to school season. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Yancy. Mayor Pro Tem.
Mayor, first, I'm ready to go home. I really am. But I want to say thank you to our growing YouTube audience. I continue to see those numbers of people that are watching us. and YouTube and it's not just in Lamar too. So there are other communities or people in other communities that are watching it. God only knows why, but they are.
Yeah.
It's JoJo. It's JoJo. It's you, JoJo. And,
They want to see what he's gonna do.
That's
Huh? Hey,
And,
catch this picture.
yeah.
We're all laughing together
Yeah.
at what Joseph is gonna do.
What comes next? What comes next? And, but that's all. That's all.
That's it.
Thank you,
That's it.
everyone.
Council, we'll keep this short. I wanted to, there are a couple things that persons in the citizens request for hearing, Mr. Garcia. No, no problem at all. You were, Mr. Ross was speaking to you. I was just waiting till the conversation ended. A couple things that, no problem at all. That folks mentioned in their citizens request for hearing. Gentleman mentioned that no one has been answering the phone at City Hall. This has been an ongoing issue even before you got here. This is not a Cesar Garcia issue. This has been a City of Lamarck City Hall issue. We need to have designated persons responsible for answering the phone. Who is our city receptionist? I don't want to know a name, but that would be the first line, I would think. And then after that, we need other persons that can pick up the slack. I know one of them was the administrative assistant that was assigned to you. Now, I do realize that that person is unavailable right now, but I would say that we need temporary staffing. If we have a person who is still employed but unable to come to work, we need temporary staffing, because what happens is, while it looks like we are saving the city money, and we appreciate the gesture, now we have folks out in the community trying to access their government, and folks are not answering phones. And that is one of the worst indictments that any organization can have, especially a city, right? So we need a plan. I would like to see a plan for council. It can be in your city manager's report. Doesn't have to be something the council will act on. We need first string, second string, third string, and fourth string phone answerers, right? To make sure that that phone is answered. So we need a plan. Secondly, there was another complaint about the speeding on West Houston Drive. That's alarming because that's a residential area, but it is also alarming because a few years ago, a young person got hit, right? This was one of those, I think there were two or three in a tight window, two or three of our young people. One of them actually ended up dying. Ricky Rojas, I believe. I still remember his name, Ricky Rojas. And so that's alarming, Mr. Garcia. We know about it, right? And so I would like for you to work with Chief Aragon and his staff to provide some sort of mitigation of that issue. And I don't know what that looks like. I'm not a police officer. I don't know if that's speed bump. I don't know if that's a speed limit. I don't know what you call those things, but the things that shows the speed limit. Right, radar, thank you. I don't know what that looks like, but we need to address it. Ms. Woodland from District A came back to visit with us about us making better responses as it relates to the communications in our emergency operations center. Kyle, I know we've talked about it, but we need to come back with what have we learned and what are we recommending for council to implement next time, as well as reminding Ms. Woodland that on next agenda, this council will be considering a resolution, a yearly resolution that we send to Centerpoint and to Texas, New Mexico, imploring them to maintain the easements. Clearly, that is a municipal responsibility. We all get that, but it is also a costly one. And so municipalities try to work with power companies to meet those needs. And we do that through resolution and through request via resolution.
I also wanted to remind us to not forget about Heroes Village. Right? This council is a very pro-veteran council or pro-military council. One of the things that we all agree on is to try to provide housing opportunities for our veterans, right? Whether they're retired, disabled, or active. We want to make sure that that dream does not die. So we'd like a report on that, as well as the idea I've been kicking around with Ms. Nance about this reverse town hall in the fall. What does that mean? Most cities have town halls where you invite people to come and talk about those issues that they want us to consider in their neighborhoods, on their streets. How about this year, we go to them? Maybe 2 weekends, when it cools off. Maybe we have representatives from each department, as well as the mayor and the council member of that district. Maybe we all randomly are given 20 homes, and we go to those 20 homes with checklists, just knocking on doors. Hello, Mr. So-and-so, Mrs. So-and-so. My name is, I am in this capacity with the city. This is a reverse town hall. We are coming to you. How goes it with you, your street, your drainage, your sewage, your police protection, right? Get feedback, and then bring that feedback to the council to see about responding. Let's go to them this time instead of us always wanting them to come to us. Let's go out into the community. I've been speaking with Ms. Nance about that here recently. It's still too hot for that. But as late October, early November rolls around, I think it would be a prime time for us as a council, for our department heads, and key players in each department to go door to door to get feedback from our residents. Yes, ma'am. National Night Out. Yes, ma'am. That's all I have tonight. Council, again, thank you. It's been a long day, and we got through it. And I believe we're getting closer. We're laughing together. We're having discussions together. Yeah, we are actually starting to communicate with one another. And I don't know if you all saw that, but I believe Councilmember Lowry actually took Councilmember Yancey's recommendation and appointed Mr. Webb to a board. Look at you. Look at that, man. Look at that. Council, if there's nothing further, we'll ask for closing comments from our city manager.
Mayor, council, residents, although this budget process has not been as smooth as it could have been, we own it. We don't run from it. We've made a lot of mistakes. There's been some growth. There's still a large opportunity for growth. I've never run from that, and I never will. I want to thank the effort of the entire team, the staff, volunteers, everybody else that puts forward what it is to make this possible. I'm humbled always by the opportunity. I don't ask anything from anybody that I wouldn't do myself. And we're encouraged at where the light is at the end of the tunnel, but we also know that it is a very, very long tunnel. And we're not afraid to get dirty and do the work, as has been evidenced by all the department heads that have come forward with their presentations, who've met before you. And you've heard from many of them saying, hey, I'm not used to doing this way. We know that we're Lamarque. We know that we do things differently. We know that the people are very, very good stewards of how we expend the actual tax dollars. And that's one of the reasons why I chose to live here. I made that choice. I love the passion. No problems there. More to come. Thank you.
Very good. Very good, council. It's late in the evening, and so we will entertain a motion to adjourn because we have to be back at 10 a.m.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye, we stand adjourned.